Good morning. I've always been a little strange. Not in a bad way, just different. I was the awkward kid. I was the one standing behind my mom's legs, peeking out, pretending that they were a human shield to protect me from the terrifying world of human interaction. I was shy, or at least I thought I was. But really, I was just scared. Scared that I wasn't enough. Or maybe I was too much? I grew up with 3 brothers who were everything that I wasn't. They were handsome. They were athletic. They were charismatic. They could walk into any room and instantly make friends. But me, I was the opposite. I have never been described as athletic a day in my life. I was insecure about my body, unsure about my voice, and I thought if I let people see the real me, they wouldn't like what they saw. So I built a box, and I put all those parts of me that I thought were too awkward or too strange or too much, and I put them in that box, and I only let a few people peek in. And then came high school. My mom suggested that I join my church's youth group, Signs. And by suggested, I mean she signed me up and told me I was going. But I brought a book with me, and I would sit in the corner and I would read my book, praying that nobody would notice me. But they did notice me, but not in a loud, invasive kind of way. They just let me know that I was welcome. And through that first year, I would go to the meetings on Sunday nights. I would bring my book, but slowly I would start peeking out from behind the pages and participating just a little, just on the periphery. Then, at the end of the year, came the summer trip. A week in Tennessee, team building, self-reflection, camping. Basically my nightmare. The only reason that I agreed to go in the first place was because my one friend Sarah was going. And if Sarah was gonna be there, I would be fine. She was my safety blanket. But then, just a few weeks before the trip, Sarah's plans changed, and she wasn't going. I was devastated. But if any of you have met my mother, I went and begged her to not make me go. But my mother was a coupon clipping, off-brand cereal buying, stay-at-home mom of 4, so a non-refundable deposit meant I was going, whether I liked it or not. But that trip, it changed everything. When I got there, I don't know what it was about the space, but I started talking, laughing, connecting, and I let people see the real me. Not the me that I thought they wanted to see. And then something truly amazing happened. They liked me. They liked my weird jokes. They liked my quirky thoughts. They liked my awkwardness. They thought I was funny. And so, from that moment on, I felt seen. There's one night from that trip that I remember, and I will remember for the rest of my life. It seems simple, but we had a prayer service that was underneath the stars, and I remember looking up at that clear Tennessee night and feeling something that I'd never felt before. True belonging. And I can still feel that in my heart today. And it was in that moment that I realized that I wasn't shy. I love laughing and talking and connecting. I just needed a space where I felt comfortable to do those things. So that whole first year of Signs, it took me that long to get comfortable, but that trip, it popped the bubble, and I never stopped talking. I never brought a book with me ever again. And I dove right in, and I made lifelong friends that are now honorary aunts and uncles to my kids. And Signs, it wasn't complicated. It was simple, really. And that safe space, it started with the leaders. They were welcoming, non-judgmental, fun, but also real. They didn't shy away from tough or deep conversations. Every meeting had a space for dialogue, but also a space to be vulnerable, but only if you felt comfortable. You were always invited to share, but never pressured to. In our meetings, we would talk about everything, from identity to justice, to grief, to hope. And then we'd tie in those discussions to activities and community service. I know most teenagers are not exactly known for opening up and being vulnerable, but so many of us felt comfortable to share because we trusted each other and we trusted that space. Now, Signs didn't just change my high school experience, it changed my life. I never left. I've been a leader with Signs for 21 years now, and I've watched hundreds of kids come through and find what I found, a place to be themselves. And it also shaped my career. I have a bachelor's in biology and an MBA. I don't use either of them. It was my experience with Signs that brought me to the career I have today as the project director for the Mentoring Collaborative, where I get to create safe spaces for young people every day. And they pay me to do it. So today I stand before you, not just asking you to come together, but to stand up. Because we live in a time where vital human services are being stripped away, where organizations like the Mentoring Collaborative, where I work, are fighting just to survive. Voices are being silenced, communities are being ignored, and the young people, they're watching. We need to create these safe spaces, not just to comfort, but to empower. Because when people feel safe, they speak, they lead, they stand up for what's right. These safe spaces, they're not soft, they're strong. They're where courage is born. They're where movements happen. These are the places where we change the world. One voice, one story, one connection at a time. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. That was Jessica Bloomingdale. She is a Kettering Fellow and is a project director for the Montgomery Collaborative of Montgomery County, which she just said. But yes, let's clap it up for our community storyteller. I love the story. I love the example of just how Jessica went through the process of feeling safe and how creating these safe spaces and these spaces to be ourselves and tell our truths can give us the power to dive deeper into our power and be our whole selves. And so I'm so excited for the Democracy Summit to be that today. Clap it up for being here. So my name is Tejal Cartwright. I am a born and raised Daytonian. I am an owner of Lore Storytelling, which is a local storytelling business that teaches people how to craft compelling stories, how to get in touch with themselves, how to create safe spaces through storytelling. And I'm happy to be here today. I'm also a Kettering Fellow. Shout out. Oh yeah, clap it up for me. So I'll be your guide today, your host. I like to call it a guide because I'm here taking everything in just as you all are. Luckily, I don't have to say all the important stuff. I'll leave that to the professionals. But I'm here to ask the questions, send the reminders, do the check-ins, and introduce our superstars like Jessica. So our next superstar is Sharon Davies, the president and CEO of Charles F. Kettering Foundation. Clap it up for Ms. Sharon.
Thanks so much, Tejal. And good morning, everybody. It is my great pleasure as the president and CEO of the Charles F. Kettering Foundation to look around this room and be the one to officially welcome you to the second Dayton Democracy Summit for 2025. And to realize, as I look out over this space, that in the course of 1 year, we have virtually doubled in size in this community for our second Democracy Summit. It is an amazing thing that I think has to do with a number of things. One is the seriousness with which people are taking this moment when they think about our democracy. And another is just the extraordinarily hard work that the number of folks have put into organizing this and thinking about how we make this a rich, important conversation for our democracy this year. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the folks that we need to be thankful for. But first, I want to just appreciate and recognize both the original Dayton Democracy Fellows class of 2024. It's the first time we ever created a group of Dayton Democracy Fellows last year. And then the new class, 2025 Dayton Democracy Fellows for this year, the knowledge, the passion, the expertise, the lived experiences of this group of professionals, neighbors, is just extraordinary. And I want us all to recognize them. So if you are a Dayton Democracy Fellow from either last year or this year, could you stand up so that we can see you? And thank you. We are so glad to have you and so appreciative. The Dayton Democracy Fellows put enormous amount of thought actually into the structure of this summit. And I was just thinking as I listened to Jessica's story, the decision to put community storytelling into the structure of this convening was brilliant. Because we all have stories, every single one of us. And when we begin to tell our stories to each other, we feel a connection that is undeniable. We can see each other in new ways. We can recognize our bonds to each other through the power of storytelling. So Jessica, where are you, Jessica? I just want to thank you for sharing your story. That was really moving. I also want to recognize a group of colleagues from the Kettering Foundation who were instrumentally involved in, first, the idea that it would be a useful thing to have a democracy summit in our city of Dayton, and then thought about all of the different ways that might be useful to us. That team is led by a woman named Elizabeth Gish. Many of you know her. She's everywhere around Dayton. She's got so much energy. Unfortunately, her energy is low today. She got ill over the last couple of days and is not going to be able to be with us in person. We know that she is here in spirit, and we are sending her all healing and positive thoughts for her full recovery. I know it is hard for Elizabeth to miss this gathering, but we will be sure to show her and to tell her all about it when she's feeling better. Elizabeth is joined on that team that's called Democracy and Community by Julio, Mateo, and Saravia Williams. Julio and Saravia, can you guys stand up so that we can recognize you? This is an extraordinary team. Saravia is waving from way over there. She's hard at work, just welcoming folks, and you'll see Julio a little later on. Okay. I also want to thank our external affairs person, Kate Schneider, our communications team, Melinda Gilmore, Sarah Murphy, Jamal Bell, Jasmine Olare, Ryan Green, and Kenny McGuane, I think, is with us all the way from California today. So you guys, if you're in the room, can you stand up so that we can see you and recognize you? There you are. And we are extremely honored to be joined today by one of the board members of the Charles F. Kettering Foundation, Peter Levine, who comes to us all the way from Tufts University. He's going to be a part of the day later on today. Peter Levine, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in person. And finally, I want to just thank an incredible group that's very near and dear to me, my senior team at the Kettering Foundation. That includes John Dedrick, Mindy Lebrecht, Brad Rourke, Jim Martin, and Teo Clyburn. If you guys I see a couple of you in the room, can you stand up? Thank you. This senior team, I couldn't do what I do without them. So one of the major themes for today's convening is hope. We thought it was important to take the time to think about and talk about hope at this moment. Because when we're engaged in conversation about democracy, the mind doesn't immediately go to hope these days. Instead, we have found that our conversations with neighbors, friends of our community and elsewhere who are talking about democracy are talking about anxiety, concern, fear even about the question of whether democracy could actually fail in the United States, a new thing for Americans to be grappling with for the most part, because we, unlike other countries, we're not accustomed ourselves as Americans to thinking that democracy might actually be in jeopardy. So we thought that we should focus on hope, because hope is necessary for us to move toward action. And action will be necessary for us to save democracy if our democracy is actually in danger. So I want to talk about three things that I have been focused on myself when I have an occasion to talk to rooms like this about our democracy in this moment. And there are three things. They all begin with the letter C, so they're easy to remember. One is clarity. The second is courage. And the third is coalition. So let's start with clarity. It is going to be very important for us in the United States to get clarity, to be clear ourselves about the nature of the threat to our democracy in order for us to meet that threat. And I spend some amount of time myself worrying that we may not actually be clear about the gravity of the threat to our democracy, partly because there seems to be a new normal almost every day, that the changes that we are witnessing, the assaults on our democracy that concern us are happening at an incredible pace. And that pace can cause us to lose sight of just how cumulative those kinds of injuries to our democracy actually are. The folks who work in the field of brain science actually say that human beings are capable of normalizing things very quickly. Even horrific things, violent things, just in a matter of days, the human being is able to normalize things in our minds. And so I do spend some time worrying that because of that, and the rapid pace of change which makes it challenging to respond to it all, that we may underestimate the gravity of the threat to our own democracy and how close we might be to that precipice where democracy slides away into something else. We see when we take the time to listen to people from other countries who saw their democracies slide into authoritarianism, that they often say the same thing. They often say, I wish that I had known how serious things would get when this happened, but I didn't take it that seriously at that moment. It was only in hindsight that I realized that our democracy was being destroyed. And so we don't want to be one of those countries where we fail until it's too late to take seriously the nature of the threats to our democracy today. We need clarity about that. And once we get clarity about that, we will need courage to face down the threats to our democracy. We will need courage to stand up to the forces that are responsible for those threats. And why do I say that? Well, because fear is one of the most potent tools of authoritarians. Creating an atmosphere of fear that causes people to, and institutions, even powerful institutions, and corporations, even multi-billion-dollar corporations, that causes individuals and organizations to get small, to try to attract as little attention to themselves as possible, to try to ride things out on the theory that if we can just get to the next year or a couple of years down the road, we'll get past this and we'll be able to fix what has been broken. And people do that when their government is utilizing tactics that put people in fear deliberately. Some scholars of authoritarians have suggested that we can tell when we cross the line from a democracy to a authoritarian system when citizens and organizations begin to think about the cost that goes along with their standing up to power. The cost or the price that they think that they may have to pay if they attract attention to themselves instead of keeping their heads low. The cost that might come from their own government if they are seen standing up or pushing back or resisting in some way the things that cause them concern. It takes courage in an atmosphere like that to stand up, to be brave in the face of very real power that we can see many examples of that doesn't hesitate to indict people, to kidnap people with masked law enforcement folks, to take away hundreds of thousands of dollars in research grants, to defund organizations like the PBS or NPR. When we live in a system like that, it's rational to be afraid of one's own government. And it takes courage to stand up despite that fear. And the last thing is coalition, and this may be the thing that helps us be brave, is when we realize that our power as members of a free society has always rested in our numbers. When we act in collective action together, when we act together in our collective defense, our power lies in our numbers if we act intentionally with each other. And that by itself, acting as a coalition, that by itself creates a different kind of fear. It is the fear that is experienced by the would-be authoritarians. And you could tell from the actions of authoritarians that it is the power of the people that they are most afraid of, that the people will actually stand up together and resist what we are concerned about. Coalition is critical to our success in preserving the democracy in the United States. So that takes hope, and we want to create an opportunity for you all who took the time to be here with us today to leave later this afternoon a more hopeful person than you were when you arrived this morning. I'm here to say that coalition is going to be an important part of keeping us hopeful. So those are the messages I just wanted to start the day with. We have a wonderful array of workshops that will be available to you. The hardest thing is going to be deciding which ones of them to go to, always the case. But we will reconvene at the end of the day, and after panel discussions, we will reconvene with what will be a stirring keynote speech by Bishop Barber, who for the second year in a row has blessed us with his company at this summit. So I hope you enjoy the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much. The 3 C's. Okay, you guys have your notebooks at the table so you can take notes. But I definitely wrote down my 3 C's. Okay, they told me to keep it short because we're on a tight schedule. But before we call Julio Mateo to the mic, I just want to give a shout out to all the youth that are here today. I'm so happy to see you guys. I know you guys are getting situated, but we love y'all. We're so glad you're here. We're invested in your future. And we can't wait for you guys to lead the way if you're not already doing it. So thank you for being here, because you could have been at school, which I'm sure is the better option for you probably. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so next up is Julio Mateo, who is the Program Associate for Democracy and Community. Clap it up for Julio.
Thank you, Tejo, and thank you, Sharon, for the introduction. Welcome, everyone, to the Dayton Democracy Summit. I want to begin by thanking the Kettering Foundation for supporting the work of democracy and community, and also for making this summit possible. I want to thank all of the foundation's staff that worked so hard and for so long to make this possible. And I want to thank all the community members who stepped up and volunteered to participate in the panel, host a workshop, share a story, share a poem, share their musical talents. This is definitely a collective effort, and we really appreciate you. And last but not least, I want to thank all of you for being here, for making the time in your busy schedules to be here, and for showing up. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you. Please give yourselves a round of applause. My name is Julio Mateo, and as Tejo mentioned, I'm the Program Associate for Democracy and Community at the Charles F. Kettering Foundation. As Sharon mentioned earlier, my colleague Elizabeth Gish could not be here today. She had to stay home to recover and to keep all of us safe. But she asked me to tell you that she is extremely disappointed that she cannot be here with us, with all of you today. When people hear the word democracy, they typically think about elections, voting, elected officials, campaigns. And it is undeniable that all of those things are part of what democracy is, and they are important parts of what democracy is. But those things aren't all that democracy is. Democracy is about each and every one of us being able to shape our communities and our lives. Democracy means that everyone belongs and that all of us should have a say in our communities, states, and nation. Ideally, our government systems will, support that, and ideally, public policy and public decisions will reflect the will of the people. But democracy is about finding ways to ensure that power is held by the people and that all people are able to shape their own lives, shape their own communities, and have a say over their own destinies. The work of democracy in community is hard, is challenging, it can be exhausting, and is work that requires all of us to work together. It's something that we cannot do alone. We need each other. Our hope is that this summit would provide an opportunity for community members to come together, to learn from each other, be inspired, and be encouraged as we try to create the kind of just and fair world that we want to live in. That's the end of my remarks because we want to keep moving the program forward. But I want everyone to know that everybody's welcome here. We try to create some spaces. There's a sensory room and a family room. There is a ASL interpretation. And if anybody needs any accommodation, please reach out to anybody that has a Kettering Foundation tag, and it will try to accommodate you as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Julio. Okay, so next up, You know, as we've heard, the Charles F. Kettering Foundation wants to be very intentional about the Democracy Summit. So it's important that we kind of continue to get regrounded. I'm sure we know why we're all here today, whether it's like your personal mission or you're just upset or frustrated about what's going on in the world and your community and your families. But I'm so excited to bring up Taylor Johnson, who is the Executive Director of Spectrum New Beginnings. She'll be getting us grounded and giving us a little moment to get clarity on why we're here.
Good morning. It is good to see everyone. So this is just a moment for you. And so I want to encourage and invite everyone to just take a moment to arrive fully. Maybe your mind is on other things that you carried into the space, things that are going on outside of the space, things that are going on just in your mind, and just take a moment to be fully present with your body, fully present with your being and what you're bringing into this space this morning, and in service to being fully present with each other, to being open to each other's ideas, having open hearts, and just seeing what transformation can occur from this amazing opportunity that we have together. So I want to invite you to really sit back in your chair, wherever you are, to feel the support of your seat at your back. And if you feel comfortable, I invite you to close your eyes or lower your gaze and feel the support of the earth, the floor beneath your feet and at your seat. And maybe even place a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly, whatever feels good to help you get connected with yourself. Because we know that we cannot pour from empty cups, and we have to take care of ourselves first. So just take a moment to notice how you're feeling. Notice your body. Notice your breath. And we're just going to take a couple of deep, intentional breaths today together, in through the nose and out the mouth. Maybe inviting your shoulders to fall a little bit heavier away from your ears, inviting your jaw to soften. And I want to invite you to think about the things that make you feel connected, the things that make you feel joyful, excited to be a part of your community, excited to be human, excited to be alive. What are the things that make you feel like all of this is worth being here? And as you reflect on those things, whatever they are, take a moment to really feel into how those things make you feel in your body. How does peace feel? How does joy feel in your heart? And I want you to continue throughout today to take moments to pause, to connect with yourself and what makes you feel alive and what it feels like to be human in the best version of your humanity. And I invite you to envision, as you're walking through the day, as you're listening, as you're learning, as you're sharing, what if we were walking through this day as if the world was already the world that we want to see? What if every person that we encountered today knew and felt that their voice mattered, that they were safe, that they belonged, that this is their world, that we're all in this together. So we're just going to journey together today, carrying our full selves and being open to all of the amazing humans that we're surrounded by today, and envisioning, feeling into what the world can be like when we're connected, when we're centered, when we care, and when we know that we are cared for. So let's take one last collective deep breath together, inviting all of that good energy in and exhaling out anything that is not that. And as you feel ready, gently begin to let light back into your eyes. Maybe begin to rock or sway or roll your neck out, whatever you feel like your body needs as we move forward together on this journey of community and belonging. Thank you.
Yes, child. I know I needed hope. I was talking to a friend earlier about hope and like what it meant for me and how I feel like my hope light lately has been flickering a little bit. But I have an 8-year-old son. I have 2 beautiful bonus daughters, 9 and 12. And if my hope is flickering, what does that mean for my children? So I'm grateful. Thank you, Taylor, for that and just for constantly being a source in this community, honestly. Okay, next up, guys, we have our first panel discussion with the Dayton Democracy Fellows called Creating Hope in Hard Times, Building Our Shared Future, which goes perfectly after our meditation. On this panel, the panelists includes Robbie Brandon from Sunlight Village, Tara Campbell from the Dayton United for Human Rights, Larry Hayden, the Dayton Tenant Union, Lake Miller from NCCJ, sorry. And the moderator is Nick Herkman from the Journalism Lab. Please clap it up for our panelist and moderator.
Morning, everybody. I am Nick Herkman. I'm the Community Impact Editor for the Dayton Daily News and the co-founder of the Journalism Lab. And I'd love to share more about that with you later. But welcome our panel. We're talking today about hope and a little bit about how to maintain that hope. And so I'd like to share just quick introductions, if you don't mind, if everybody goes down the panel, just to give a quick few words about yourself. So starting with Lake.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Lake Miller. I'm the Director of Education with NCCJ, Nurturing Community, Cultivating Justice. We are a social justice nonprofit here in Dayton. We've been in Dayton since 1978. And I am a Dayton Democracy Fellow.
Perfect. That is exactly what we need.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Robbie Brandon. I am founder and executive director of Sunlight Village, Inc. We'll be celebrating 20 years next year of service in our community, focused on mental health and well-being for our youth and young adults in West Dayton.
It's on. Hi, my name is Tara Campbell. I'm an executive president for Dayton United for Human Rights. We were actually the catalyst for the city of Dayton unanimously passing a resolution in 2023 to become the first human rights city in Ohio. So we are educating community and keeping them on the hook to make sure this happens for our community. Thank you.
Good morning. What a beautiful group. My name is Larry Hayden, and I'm with the Dayton Tenant Union, and our job is to advocate for those who can't speak for themselves. Even though I may know some landlords may be out there, but we're not here to make you look any bad or anything, but however, we're here to make Dayton a better place. We're here to give a voice, understanding, love, and hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to start it off with the questions. So we are in a moment where democracy is really struggling. I think we can all kind of feel some of that struggle. What's one thing that gives you hope right now? And let's start with Larry.
I love being first, okay? My hope is that we reach down to our young people to let them know that the future is bright and there is hope and understanding. And I think by going younger and talking to them and building a path for them gives them hope, gives us hope, and just gives a better democracy for where we live in. Thank you.
So when I look at hope, I look at my children, my grandchildren, and also my community. We recently received a proclamation to declare all 24 cities to have July 12th as an International Day of Hope. And so when I look at hope, I look at all of you. I look at our youth, especially our youth, and the things that they are doing to keep hope alive. And when I look at hope, I look how having coalitions and also having a dream to have a shared future, that's what gives me hope. And how all of us have some type of interconnection, how all of us also have a vision to see a brighter future for Dayton.
First, I want to start with saying thank you, Taylor, for helping me relax. What gives me hope is this: seeing all you in this room, working with my fellows, my peers here, with a shared vision to do something positive in our city. I've been doing this work for a long time, and this right here is what gives me hope. I can take this hope back to our team, back to our youth, back to the parents, back to the families who are losing hope because of the things that are happening in our community, in our city. But this right here, I'm telling you, gives me strength and gives me hope. My hope is nothing without faith, first and foremost. So my faith in God, His promises, and watching all this happen gives me hope in what we're trying to do and making sure that things happen.
I would say, following up on some of the other fellows here, that youth is probably the biggest place that I get hope. I'll share an example. Just 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of accompanying a group of 13 youth from the Dayton area to go to Cleveland and go through this really amazing educational growth journey in Cleveland. And what really stands out to me, I think, is sometimes for us as adults, no's hit really hard, right? It's like, well, I tried and there was a no, and so that's the end of the story, right? But the kids, man, they're like, all right, well, let's overcome that barrier, right? Like, no is meant to be surpassed. Couldn't do it this avenue, let's do it another avenue. They are so persistent and they believe so deeply in the things that they stand for. And so I just left that trip with so much hope for this moment and saying, like, I think all of us can be inspired by that passion of young people to say, you know, let's do more, let's go further, let's take that no and turn it into potentially a yes or find a different way.
I love that. Thank you all for those answers. We're looking to also address some things that we can do, and before we can actually do a lot in a democracy, being informed and making sure we know what's going on around us is really, really important. So we know that accurate and unbiased information about what's happening around us can be increasingly difficult to find, even if you're actively looking for it. And we know how important this is to thriving and inclusive democracies, being able to know what's happening and going on around us. Where do you turn to for reliable and trustworthy information to make informed judgments about the world around you? Let's start with Tara.
Okay, great. So it's really important for us to take a look at lived experiences, right? And stories, because most of that is what drives data and information. And so we look at also when we are in coalition meetings or gatherings, engagements, and those types of things, lived experiences and stories is where I really go to really get the real gist of what's going on. without lived experiences, you can't really support the data. So it's important to always have those stories or those lived experiences to support whatever you're looking for, because that will make it valid. Thank you.
Robbie?
I kind of have to share with Tara here what she said about lived experiences, because way too often people come in and collect data from our community, and we look for that data to be accurate, but it often doesn't trickle back down to the community so that we can work with what was found and what was collected. So we have to look at our people as well. Shared experiences, and some data is very valid. It is very important to get data from reliable resources, but also getting information from the community. When you talk to parents and people and historians who are from Dayton, you know where we were, and that gives you an idea of where we can go. So making sure that we have a balanced source of where our resources come from, because you're right, there's tons of misinformation out there, especially about our people and our youth.
Yeah, I think starting with that, our table, my table I was sitting with this morning, we were having a conversation about AI before this thing started, and I'll be the first to admit that I'm an AI user, but I'm an AI skeptic. And so I think that that's what we're combating, right? I mean, people are looking to artificial intelligence to be their knowledge source, and unfortunately there's plenty of misinformation that exists out there. Certainly I echo the actually real conversations piece. I would also say showing up is critical. Go to the city council meeting instead of expecting to read the reporting on the city council meeting. I've certainly found that I've gone to those school boards, city council meetings, seen something show up in the news the other day or a day after and thought, well, I thought there was another side to that story, or that's not exactly how I interpreted it. And so, I think certainly talk to people, but I would also say show up.
Larry?
I think the data is great, but I'm a little bit old school, so I just use the data as a starting point. I want to go and like Tara mentioned, I will go and talk to people who are more experienced, who've been there, who've done things, and then I combine that information. However, though, I think people that are in the trenches, such as yourself, the education, things that you've done, things that you have experienced, to me, is more powerful than data. Data is just a starting point. Do I trust it? Maybe a little. But I just believe in the human experience and the walk that they've done to help me continue my walk.
Thank you all. And I don't think it's a risk for us, but being in this work all the time and being inundated with either negative news or challenging news, or being in the trenches and seeing some really challenging things, it can be tempting to check out of kind of a news cycle or out of the greater kind of community. When things are dark, why is it important to resist that urge and stay connected and engaged with your community? You're going to start with Robbie?
That is so funny. Okay. For me, it is super easy to check out when you have youth that are struggling every day, when you have kids and families who are underserved, who don't have what they need just for a daily meal, when education is a big issue, when you have a 10th grader walk in your door and he can't read, when you have families who are struggling every day, it's easy to check out, especially when you see the work and the resources are not always where they should be. We've got a great team of people that work with Sunlight Village and a great community that work together. But what keeps me from checking out, honestly, is my faith. Because if I didn't see something bigger, if I didn't see that this could be something much, much bigger and better based on my hope and my faith in God, then I'm telling you, there'd be many times I would have checked out. Because when you're sitting at the bedside, and I'm a mental health nurse of 35 years, I'm trying to retire. I am retired.
That's not good.
But from the hospital bed to the psych unit to our community, I don't see a big difference, especially in the underserved areas. So we have to stay grounded. We have to have something that's bigger than us that we look forward to. We have to have something that we can ground ourselves in, that God's promises are what keeps me going, I'm telling you. And there are days when I just pull back, I go home, I shut my doors, I go in prayer, and I check out, maybe for an hour or two. But in that time, I'm focusing on who I am in God and what I can do in my abilities with the people that work with me.
Great.
Larry, did you want to go next?
Okay. I don't watch the news that much because I don't want to be persuaded. I'm like Robbie. I don't start my day off negative. I thank God that He's blessed me another day. I am dealing with people that are struggling. I'm dealing with mothers that children are sick because of mold and lead poison, and I'm dealing with landlords who don't want to fix their housing. So I don't want to live in a negativity. All I want to do is embrace the positive point that we can help them, that we can attach them to Able Law Firm, that we can attach them to a Disability Act, Miami Valley Fair Housing. For me to understand what they're doing, I don't want to be around negativity because I want to give them hope. I want to give them the desire to do better. I want to give them the desire that we can try to figure this out, because there are a lot of hurtful people, and my job is to give them hope and understanding, and teach them about their rights, give them empower, so that we can empower them. And you're right. I have been to the city commission meeting, but also I've campaigned for a judge, congressman, state representative, city commissioner, and the mayor. So I've been that political route, but this is totally different. This is people right now that need hope now. So the news is very small to me. The joy in the walk is even greater.
Tara?
Let me say, when our political rights, our civil rights, and our human rights are being stripped away from us right now, when our coalition is fighting every day to make sure every one of you are educated on your human rights, to make sure our kids understand what their human rights are so they can uplift themselves and actually advocate for themselves, it's hard for me to stay focused and not checked out. Let me be honest. I check out. Because for me to do this type of work, I must check out so I can come back and be whole again. It's important for me to check out for that moment, for that time. Do I watch the news? Not very often. What I rely on is community members, partners, friends like Larry and Miss Robbie, that we uplift each other to make sure we are educated on what's going on around our community, educated what's going on federal and international. Do I see some things? Yes, I do. But then that's when it's like, oh, now I have something different to worry about. I have to be focused on community concerns right now. I can't be focused on what's going on in the federal government. I can't be focused on what's going on internationally, even though it affects us. Now, do I know about it? Yes, I do, but I get it from a different stream. The news is not the way I want to get it. I want to get it from the voices of the people that are being impacted, the people that may not have food stamps next month, okay? Those people are who I rely on to give me the information that we need to move forward. As a coalition, it's really important for us to really understand where we are right now in our political climate. Our political climate will have us all messed up if we stay watching the news every day, all day, 24/7. So what's important for us is to really get technical on what is going on at our local level, because the local level is where we will make change as long as we stick together and be in coalition. Thank you.
Mike?
First, I realized the last question we all forgot to say. There's this local paper. There's
Yes.
what, Community Voices or something?
It was
called?
not a
is.
plug. It was not a plug.
Yeah, there's someone, Nick Herkman, I believe. You can check that out.
Absolutely.
No, I would say I struggle with this question, to be honest with you. I'm a mental health person, and I think that there's a difficult nature when the information that you're bringing in is so hard and so heavy that I think that for some of us, we have to check out sometimes, right? Like, Taylor said, you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think sometimes you have to take that step back to say, like, if my mental health is getting to the point that taking this in is so detrimental to me, then maybe I'm not actually able to do the work, right? Like, and maybe I need to take that moment to unplug and pause and reset, because ultimately I think burnout doesn't help anybody. And I would rather me take a month to pause and focus on myself or focus on this work, and then come back stronger than to just push and push and push and eventually be tired or even unfortunately resentful of the work. And so I think I struggle with the question in the sense that I think, like, for myself and for all of us, I think sometimes we do have to give ourselves permission to practice that self-care. But I want to, I think, go on a quick journey about that. There was I'm not going to say what, but there was a major political event that happened at some point. I'm a podcast person. Anyone a podcast person? I love podcasts. Before this major political event, I was watching or listening to literally like an hour and a half of political commentary podcasts every single day, like just taking in an enormous amount of information. And after this event concluded, I just felt incredibly defeated and incredibly exhausted. And suddenly I went from listening to an hour and a half of political podcasts to either driving in the silence. I don't know if anyone else does this, but sometimes just driving in silence, or just listening to the silliest, funniest podcast that I could find because that's what I needed. Now, for myself, after, I don't know, a month of doing this, I eventually got to the point that I started to reflect on that experience and started to think, like, wow, there's actually a lot of privilege in the fact that I have just checked out for the last month, right? Because I had friends that were bringing these events to me. I had friends that were talking about the impact of what was happening in the world on their lives. But I had made the choice to check out, but they didn't feel that they could, that it was safe for them to, that these things were so deeply impacting their lives. And so I think that checking out ultimately is a privilege that is awarded to those of us who can choose to check out because we don't have to worry about what the news might say for us personally. And so I think it's a responsibility for us to be aware of what's happening in the world. I think even more it's a responsibility for those of us to be aware of what's happening in our own community. But I do want to, this is really not a solid answer. I think it's important to have both, but I really think that for each of us, we have to make that personal, like, cost-benefit analysis of, do I need to take that purposeful pause moment and refresh? Do I have the capacity to do this? Can I even take the opportunity to not engage?
I disagree.
Can I say one more thing before you go on? I want one more thing, and that's just community. When you check out, when you're worn down, and when you're beaten up to no end, community is really important. Having positive people around you.
Yes.
Positive people who can help. It can be that soft landing after a hard day. Someone who'll just check in and say, hey, let me bring you a cup of tea. Or go home, you're going to take the next couple of days off. So it's good to have that community of people around you that actually go through the struggle with you and understand what you're doing. We support each other.
Can I step in for 1 second?
Of course.
Just 1 second. You know, we realized that United for Human Rights realized the importance of checking out. So we decided as a coalition that we will take an annual sabbatical to make sure that we can reset every year in August. So, I kind of offer that to a lot of coalition members or people that's in this space to be intentional on checking out so that way you can reset.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, I disagreed because I thought you gave a wonderful answer. In kind of the same vein, in uncertain times, there's a human reflex to focus more on personal or family issues and kind of, circle the wagons, buckle down, over the larger shared needs of community or even country. How do we resist that urge and communicate the importance of shared destiny and interconnectedness? Go for it, Lake.
I would say first, I think that there's a deep interconnection between these two things. And sometimes I think we have a sense to isolate our individual, community, personal problems, whatever, from the broader issues at play. But the reality, I think, is that there's a huge amount of interconnection between the ways that our communities are built, the laws that are being passed in our communities, the traumas that our communities have faced, and the things that are happening in my home. Right? I mean, I think Dayton, maybe more than any community over the last 5, 6, 7 years, can understand the impact that these community level things have on individual people's experiences, right? If we think of our own community traumas going through, COVID, going through the tornadoes, going through the mass shooting, going through the KKK being in our community, like all of these were personal or were very community level traumas, but those community level traumas manifest very much at the home level as well, right? And so like because of the difficulty getting fresh produce in my community, now I've got this community or this impact within my household. And so I don't think that we can separate them. And sometimes I think it can be frustrating because community level change is a long effort. But I really believe deeply that we have to address the root cause of an issue. We have to actually understand, like, why is that happening? Why is that happening in not only my household, but so many people's households within this community, and really attack that root cause, understanding that it may take 5, 10, 15 years, unfortunately, to truly reverse the course of that root cause. But I don't know that we can separate those things out.
And I think many of us do what we do because it is a lived experience. I'm a grandmother of 5 young black boys, strong black boys, and 2 girls. And so I do what I do because of them. When I see what's happening in our community to our children, that cannot continue. And if nobody advocates for the kids in our community, then how can I advocate for my own grandkids? Also, as a nurse working on a psych unit, I'm just going to tell you a little story. Working on the psych unit, in the mental health unit, I experienced someone very, 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 very close to me attempt suicide. And I'm working on the unit, and I'm like, how in the world did I miss this? And I thought after it was all over and the healing processes began, and I began to work within my family, I realized how many mothers out there, how many fathers out there, how many family members out there don't know what to do when someone is struggling with mental illness. I work in it every day, all day. The nurses told me, Robbie, take your nurse hat and your mom hat off and put your nurse hat on and do what you do. I can't tell a parent that. So what I do is based on my lived experience, is based on what I see in my community. I grew up in West Dayton, grew up in DeSoto Bass. So this trauma isn't far from me. It's lived experiences, and this is why I think I'm so passionate about what I do. And many of us, we're the best therapists in the world I know have come through trauma and helped me. I'm the best psychiatrists who have come to me and helped me through my issues and who through my healing have been those who experienced it well. So I think, like you said, this is interconnected. We have a passion, we have a drive, we have a purpose, and it's to help those that have gone through some of the same things we have, and so they won't go through it in such a terrible, terrible way. So the work we do is very, very connected with our personal lives. At least I believe it is for myself.
Larry?
Great question. Great question. My community is my family. People ask me what I do. I tell them I'm an Uber driver. I work for a nonprofit corporation. You know, the pay is awful, but the gratification is unbelievable. So my community is my family. My community has helped my grandson and my daughters to understand what this world is going to be like and prepare them. I talk with them. I walk with them. I put myself in a position that we have discussions about life. I ask them about what's going on in school. What did you do? How can you do this better? And I do that because I believe that's what's going to make our community together. I believe in being an example. I believe I'm more than the walk. I mean the talk. I believe in doing the talk. And I say that for the simple reason, helping people in housing. I just want to share a story. There is a complex in Montgomery County who reported things were not right. And they contacted some city officials. They came out, took pictures, went to court. And the judge ruled and said, yes, you are absolutely right. There's a lot of problems going on, and a lot of some of the places are really inhabitable. But here's this question. He says, before I rule, and if I find them guilty, I'm going to have to go back and find all the other apartment facilities and homes the same way. His question was, if we evict those individuals because the place is inhabitable, where are they going to live? So what do we do? What do we do? This is why the Dayton Tenant Union talk about the Housing Trust Fund. We need a fund that's going to help people facilitate their problems. You know, as far as last year, over 2,000 people got evicted. 90% of them lost because they didn't have an attorney. But even though all of that, you know, the only way they can turn that around is our community. And the only way they can return that or help is individuals like yourself to understand what the community is, to be part of the community and make some changes. Thank you.
Well, I kind of like second all of the things the panelists have said, but I'm gonna go a different direction. I think it's really important for you to take care of personal care in your family. If you don't take care of your house, how can you go out and take care of anyone else if you don't make sure that things that's going on within your household is taken care of, that your children have what's necessary? Mm-hmm. But it's still interconnected. So once I take care of me, my personal care, my family care, then I can spill that over into my community, because I can't be any good if I'm not taking care of myself. So I think it's important for self-care and for family care, so that way we can all go out and merge and interconnect with what's necessary. The trauma, the different things that are happening to our immigrant families and friends, the things with education. Children are not being able to show up in school right now because they can't get their money. I mean, a lot of things is going on where we must, first of all, understand what's going on in our home first, so that we can show up, so that we can be informed, so we can be the people that understands what's necessary to provide resources in different ways to support our community. So I would say, first of all, self-care is important, because I don't know how many times me and Ms. Robbie are saying, oh, I'm just tired, I just wish I had another hour. Oh, I'm tired. I stayed up to 2 o'clock last night making sure that I had everything set up for today. And that's a norm for me. But self-care is important so we can show up for our community, so we can be informed. And I think it's really important for us to really understand that trauma leads a lot of things. Trauma leads a lot of things. Our community is filled with trauma. And before we continue to do the things we need to do, we need to first stop and think about, how do we really deal with trauma as a community? We don't really talk about it. It's time to start talking about that first. There's so many histories of things that have happened that we have not really talked about. We just act like it hasn't happened, or we are not still having experiences behind it. So it's really important for us to really start talking about trauma today. Not that it was yesterday. I was trauma from yesterday, something happened, right? And I really need to understand, how do I move forward from it? And so I think it should be a part of all your coalition meetings, all your different meetings, is how do we address trauma as a community, as an organization, as people? Thank you.
Of course, Sarah, fantastic answer. And I just building on that a little bit, and maybe the micro, because it can be challenging to talk about the importance of dreams and hope when many in our community are facing what might be described as a nightmare. Have you had any recent experiences comforting a community member? And what advice do you have for those looking to help those who might be targeted or affected by state or federal government actions?
Okay, I'll take it. Uh, in my life where I volunteer being executive president, this is something that I don't do to get paid for, something that I'm driven because of passion. But what pays my bills is I have worked in housing all of my life, the last 30 years, and also I'm a realtor. So I was phoned recently to support a community member in trying to find just suitable housing. So being a realtor, you can actually show housing even though it's not for sale. So I took her to several housing complexes and a couple of single-family homes. And it was really hurting. It's so hurtful. When we walked in, I smelled mold. This house was being rented for $1,500, okay? So I'm an inspector also, so that's what I do in my day job. So immediately I smelled mold. So I walked through the house, the carpet was dinged. I turned the corner, go in the bathroom. Whoever lived there before put out cigarette butts on the actual sink. I go to the next place, into the bedroom. The windows couldn't be opened. This place was being rented for $1,500. So then we left there. We went to another place. That one was being rented for $1,200. Okay, and these both were 3-bedroom homes. When we walked in, I smelled mold again. So we went into the room, the air conditioner room. There were window air conditioners in the space. We went on through the kitchen. The house was fairly decent, but then we went into the basement. In the basement, there was nothing but dirt. And if you've ever went into a basement and they had that hole that you can see through, but you didn't know what was behind there. It was just dirt in the hole. It wasn't even covered up. And couldn't hardly get down the stairs, right? So we left there. And she said, what am I to do? I didn't have an answer for her because our state government has put legislation that we can no longer put rent caps, or we can't even have any legislation on rent caps. Our community, our governments here, I won't call any single one out, but there's not legislation in place that really speaks to having homes that are really uninhabitable to live in. And so when I say that, we need legislation to be able to support things what Larry said, to support what I've seen with my own eyes. $1,400, the floors was coming up in the bathroom, and you wanted $1,400. The house looked like it had been through a mud spat. So I just challenge us to really understand and be innovative of different ways that we can support our community in finding stable housing, affordable housing that I would live in, that your children will live in, that you want your mother to live in, right? And so when I looked at these different places, and they're top of the line, high name places, I'm saying, really, what are we doing here? So I'm going to talk to Destiny and the Dayton Tenant Union, which I'm a part of that too, because we're all in here together, working together, to see how do we really be intentional on making sure that people do not have to rent these type of spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
I'm gonna ask you to repeat the question because it's pretty multifaceted.
Oh, sure.
And I got some stories, but I need to make sure I keep them right where they're supposed to be.
Just looking to see if you'd be willing to share a recent experience comforting somebody who might have been either targeted by action or is going through something particularly difficult in the community.
Let's see. Let's start with, I had a young man just recently, in the fall of last year, get shot in the face. One of our advocates, the parent called because she needed a ride home. One of our advocates went and got the mom and the young man and brought him home. And she came home with a bag of medication and gauze packs and trach tubes and G tubes and all this kind of stuff, and had no idea what to do with it. So I go and I talk to the mom, and I'm looking at her housing situation, and I'm looking at her mental health and the mental health of her son and what we're faced with here. And the first thing I do is call the hospital and find out why he was discharged without a really good discharge plan. Then I'm calling the juvenile court system to see if the probation officer is aware and how can we help get resources for this family. And we're connecting other resources and issues. And then I hear that we're cutting juvenile justice funding. Healthcare is not a priority anymore, especially in our underserved communities. And I'll say this, and I'm not ashamed of it, but as a contract registered nurse with a nonprofit, I don't have insurance that's affordable. So we've got all these policies and things that affect how we live, that make decisions for us. So honestly, Sunlight Village does not want to depend on government funding. As a nonprofit, we have to depend on our people. We have to depend on each other. I think there's enough people in this room, in this city, in this community, in this state that can help fund programs that help children read, learn, and have mental health and well-being.
Absolutely.
So nope, I'm not gonna worry about the government funding that we actually never really had. We have one government grant, which I thank God for, and that's the partnership we have with Montgomery County Juvenile Courts. But we've really, it's hard to get funding for programs like ours. So I look at the struggles that our children and our youth that we deal with every day. This is one situation. And the sad part is we were visiting this young man at home, and his neighbor, the young man across the hall, committed suicide. Suicide is on the rise in the Black community in Dayton, and we can say there's numbers out there all over the place that show that this data is happening. And so we as a community have to we can come together. And I'm all about writing grants and asking for big funding collectively, because Sunlight Village can't do this by ourselves. It takes a whole network of people. So when we talk about funding and government policies and government changes, I try not to let that hinder me from where we have to go. Because if that right there would stop all of us in our tracks, especially me. So our youth, our children, there's stories on top of stories on top of stories that I could tell. But I just want to say that every child that we deal with, every young person, every family is worth it. And we can do it collectively as a people.
Thank you, Ms. Ravi. Larry?
Boy, these are some tough questions. Being involved with the Dayton Tenant Union, I'll just share a story. We are in the process dealing with an apartment that has 11 floors. Every other weekend, the elevator is shut down. They have disabled people in there. And some of the residents have to carry them downstairs. What's interesting is does the landlord care? He feels if he fixes it in a month, he's in compliance. But could you be locked in your house for a month without going outside or emptying the trash or just doing what you normally do? But these are things what we're dealing with. However, though, I will tell you the good part about this apartment complex is that the neighbors, the residents have gotten together and they're actually going to form a union. And because they've sent the owner a letter which caught his notice, that now he's beginning to try to fix things. We shouldn't have to do that. You know what really amazes me? How is the city of Dayton can spend $1.5 million for a police station downtown and then spend another $1.2 million on 3rd Street and Abbey for another police station, but crime is at utmost high. Okay, I don't understand that. And then we got a city manager makes over $250,000. Her assistants make $125,000. But we have people that are having so much problems just trying to live in their apartment. What is wrong? Why? Why is the love and the care is on one side of town and not the other? When we talk about Montgomery County, we talk about everybody. We don't talk about sections. You know, unfortunately, my other thing that I volunteer with the American Red Cross. And we go out in the middle of the night at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and help people with fires. The blessing is, like like Robbie is that our money is not government funded. 97% of all the money that we make goes to disaster, which meant they had to lay a lot of people off, but they made it happen. They made it happen through volunteers. So I just want, we got an election coming up. And this is how we can make change. This is how we can solve solutions. This is how we can change the direction. So I ask you, how do you want your city to be? What would you want it to look like? Have you thought about your neighbors? Do you know your neighbors? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Blake?
I want to go back really fast because Robbie got me started on something that I'm deeply passionate about, and that's that this work does cost money. It's the reality. There's no avoiding it. And as I mentioned earlier, like we're talking about systems issues. We're talking about things that are going to take a lot of time and a lot of effort to overcome. But for many of us who represent nonprofits, something that is a real reality is we're competing for dollars that exist today but don't have any promise of long-term delivery. The difficult thing is, the work that I may be doing today, we may not see at a community level the fruits of that work for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. And that may be generous, right? I mean, we're talking about like redlining as a system, something that has been illegal for a very long time, but yet our community still looks the same today. Mm-hmm. We can't be expecting to change the physical layout of our community in the next 12 months. And so I think we have to understand that as we talk about funding, we need to work creatively together to identify ways that we can create these commitments for long-term investment within our own community, because that's the only way it's going to change. I can't tell you the number of people that I've talked to in this difficult time who had the framework of amazing things built and then a federal grant disappeared, right? And so it's like our community will never get to see the fruits of that amazing framework that they developed. And so that's important. I would say the conversations I've heard, I would encapsulate the singular word of fear, I think, as being like the most common thing that I'm hearing from people. Hearing about fear from community members. I'm hearing about fear from other organizations in the room, from my peers in other organizations. And I think the hard thing about this fear right now that makes it difficult, to your question, is it's fear that I don't think that we have full control over, right? And so like fear over immigration, for example. We've talked to schools who are fearful for the students within their schools. We talk to families who are fearful for their own safety, living in that community. If we look to Springfield, for example, we know that Springfield has already had a huge number of people leave the Springfield community out of fear that they might not be safe being there any longer. And so I think fear is tricky because I can't change that legislation, and I don't feel that I can just say to them, well, it's going to be okay, right? Because I can't promise that. And I think, that's something that I'm grappling with is like, how do I comfort this person? How do I provide support for this person when the issues that they're facing are so large, right? Like that they're very, very real. And so I think the only thing that I would kind of leave with that is like, I find it really important to validate that person's experience. Sometimes for those of us who are in the helping profession, and I'm guessing that many of us in this room are helpers by nature, for those of us who are helpers, we like to approach a situation and say like, well, I want to solve that problem. But right now, I don't feel like this is a problem that I can solve. And so rather, sometimes I think all I can leave with is hearing someone, validating that person, being there as their ally or their supporter the entire way, doing anything I can to help them through this, this current moment. But I think one of the most important things that we can do is validate the pain and the fear that someone is experiencing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is an optional question. I'm just asking if anybody's willing to share at your lowest point over the last year, where did you turn for comfort? And how do you think others might be able to learn from that?
So I'll share. Over the last year, I lost my rock, my everything, my mother, okay? I was at my lowest point. And what comforted me was God and my sister. She's in the room. I won't tell her to raise her hand, but my sister. And we got through it together. But what also supported me was my community. My community showed up when they knew I was at my weakest point, when I couldn't breathe, when I could cry. And in this process, I went through some more things. I had pneumonia. Then I fell and damaged the right side of my body. And now I have long-term COVID. And I'm gonna get real intimate with you now. I asked for the questions for this panel to be given to me up front because I thought I needed to study them. But somebody told me that I had passion within me that I could do it, and I didn't need to have them up here for me because the COVID has taken me where I can't really think clearly like I used to. But what comforts me is each and every one of you, God and my sister Shannon that's in the audience, to know that when I was down, they called me. They knocked at my door. They brought me medicine. They told me everything was gonna be all right. And I still have dates with some people in the audience that knows that they've been through that too, that said, I hear you, I see you, I'm there for you. And so when you lose a parent, there's a void there. But the void will always be there, but you will be supported by your peers, by your family, and by all these people on the stage. My coalition, Dayton United for Human Rights, they were right there before me. From the time that they showed up at the funeral, many people that I didn't even know was there. But that let me know that we are in this together. And so I say to you, if you've experienced this, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't experienced this, I don't even know what to say because it's something that you will have to go through. But all I can tell you is that if you know of those that have experienced it or is currently experiencing this situation where they're lost a parent, reach out to them. Just call them and say hello. It goes a long way. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Tara. Did anyone else want to?
I'll share. As a little black girl who grew up in West Dayton, I've been through lots of ups and downs. Divorce, children, family. But right now is one of the hardest times I've ever had to go through. We were blessed with a 21,000 square foot facility that we are now calling Sunlight Village Hub. With that blessing came challenges on top of challenges. And we're still going through challenges, whether it's a funding challenge, a construction challenge, a health challenge, a youth challenge. Some of the things that we've experienced are having to go through lawsuits with bad contractors, the building not being able to pass certain things and then going backwards and having to fix things and just people not being there who you thought would be there in the toughest times. When you're celebrating something like this, why do people become negative and resentful? Where does that negativity come from when you're blessed with something, an opportunity to grow your organization and serve more children and more families? So then on top of that, it just hit, things just hit. It was like I was in the middle of the eye of a tornado or something. You know, it was an eye of the storm. Like everything that could go wrong was going wrong. Everything that we were supposed to have wasn't coming. We're waiting on funding and, you know, the finance person is on vacation. So you got money from the city coming and, well, they're not gonna be here today because we're at a conference. So I'm thinking, okay, well, it's gonna be 30 degrees and we don't have heat. So what do you do when you're responsible for something as big as an organization that provides care for children, youth, and families in West Dayton? It gets really hard. It gets really dark. It gets really sad, and it gets really heavy. And the only thing that pulls me up and gets me up in the morning is my faith in God. And that this is just a temporary challenge to what's promised on the other side. I was sitting at the bed of my uncle in hospice when the pastor came and said, "Would this building be helpful to you?" And I'm thinking, I'm praying for my uncle here. What are you talking about? Then it hit me. He was giving me something that was a major blessing. He was breathing hope back into a situation that I was already struggling with. And in that hope, I could see the promise on the other side. I could see now we have art and music and parenting classes and exercise classes in the community that hasn't had it in forever. We're even talking about trying to find fresh produce. I'm working back with the food pantry to make sure that we have food distributions, all this stuff, and we're a team of 8. We're a team of 8. So thinking about all that and trying to navigate all that, it can be very daunting. It can be very tiring, and it can be very dark. But in all that, there are the people that we work with who also have this faith, who have this trust, and there's something, this is not given to us as a gift for us just to squander it. It's not, we can't lose hope in the struggle. So we have to continue to work with each other. We have to build on each other's strength, and we have to trust in God, something bigger than us, because with man, this is impossible. With God, all things are possible. So every person I come in contact with, every blessing, every gift, every donation is something that I can see that's going to help us get to that next level. So no matter how dark it gets, I have to go to that place where I know only God, because sometimes when you get to crying, everybody ain't trying to hear that. So that's where I draw my faith from and my strength from.
I'll say I was sitting at the beginning of the year in a group that was meeting once a month talking about addressing childhood trauma in our community. And it occurred to me, like, I'm going to declare 2025, is that the year still? 2025? I'm going to declare 2025 to be the year of Lake Miller. I'm Lake Miller, by the way. And I don't say that selfishly, because I acknowledge there's people in this crowd that are going to be like, that's pretty selfish that he said that. But like, I also hope that it's the year of Robbie, and I hope it's your year. And like, I think we each need to claim it our year. And what kind of brought me to that is, again, I think for so many of us who are helpers and people who have dedicated a lot of their work to bettering communities, we can spend a lot of time and effort working with others and trying to lift up others, and then look back and say, like, when is the last time that I unapologetically did something for myself? This might sound like a silly example, but I'll share it anyway. A year and a half ago, my wife and I bought an RV. I'm now an RVer. If anyone else is an RVer, come up and talk to me afterwards, I suppose. But we bought an RV, and that was like probably one of the biggest unapologetic things I did for myself. We wanted to go see all the national parks. We wanted to spend time going out and seeing the world, and like, it brings me so much joy, and it brings me that opportunity to disconnect. And so I think we have to find that opportunity. You know, the reality is self-care is not selfish. I think it's one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves. And so, you know, for me, it was like getting outside, seeing the national parks, and spending time camping. But for whatever that is for you, you know, finding that thing that brings you joy or recharges your battery, and to make it, you can do it now, or 2026 can be your year also. I hope for 2026 to still be my year. But to claim that space and have this be, you know, the year of taking care of yourselves.
2026 is the year of Robbie.
Hey, all right.
Hey.
I second it.
I love it. And Larry?
Great question. I am in the process of really trying to find peace. I'm an identical twin, and we just buried him Saturday. So I have learned how awesome God is. I've learned how powerful community is. That when you have a loved one that passed, we can't be selfish, especially when they're in a better place. So it's taught me to, well, Larry, you always helping people. So why is there a problem when God is helping someone else? None of us are promised tomorrow, even though we think about tomorrow and we plan for tomorrow. But we have to accept the good times as well as the bad times. I meditate. I pray a lot. But here's the good part. I like to stay active. I like to stay involved. This is where I get my strength from. Being involved, you know, they say an idle mind is a devil's workshop, and I don't have that kind of time. However, though, I just want to share with you, twins are very competitive. So my joy is, one of my friends says, now, you know, your twin is up in heaven, and he's saying, aha, I got here first. So we have to think of the joy and the bright side and the love and just a great opportunity to move forward. And he's going to always be in your heart. So my peace comes from working in the community. My peace comes from, you know, having friends like Robbie call, like, look, you need something, just call me. It does matter. It does matter. But I'll be all right.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you all for sharing. I know that was a lot of sensitivity and vulnerability, so thank you all for being willing to share that with the audience today, and that is, I believe, all the time we have for the panel. So thank you all for sharing your insights and for answering questions and for helping the community learn more about how to stay hopeful. And I think, you know, maintaining also your own hope and your own light and your own health in trying times. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, let's clap it up for our panelists one last time. Okay, guys, we'll take a break in one quick second, but we have one more thing that we have to do that is not on the agenda. But before we get to that, I just want to say, as we were talking about hope, I was thinking about, like, what are things that give me hope? And of course, it's my son, as I shared earlier, but the Gem City market that we built together that we can continue to invest in. Yes, clap it up for Gem City Market. This cooperative grocery store where employees own the space, it's worker ownership, inspires me. And as we were having meetings in 2016 trying to figure out how to get this store open, I was pregnant with my son, who now, he doesn't yell at me, but who now, like, comes at me crazy if we go somewhere else other than Gem City Market. That's his store. He knows where everything is. And I think it's important for us to keep investing in things so our youth can take over. And especially during these times, we need flagships where we have invested in and raised money and put our time and resources into and met countless nights about. It's important for us to invest in our resources. So Robbie mentioned the Sunlight Village. Please invest in our resources. She's been doing this work for a long time, like many of us, but I just wanted to highlight that. Okay, so next up, we have our declaration from the students at Meadowdale Career Tech. They are here to make a declaration. Come on, guys, clap it up.
How y'all doing today? We're from Meadowdale High School, and we coming to y'all today with the declaration of the Democracy Summit. And here we go.
Testing.
Here y'all, how y'all doing today? we from Meadowdale High School, and we coming to y'all today at the declaration of the Democracy Summit, and here we go. All right, so just say it. We go say it.
A declaration to those currently in power.
You don't need to pass it.
Oh, okay. From those who will soon be in power.
What kind of world would you want to live in?
In a world where us teens don't have to worry about if we're going to see another day with gun laws.
1.
People can walk around safely without worrying.
2. Everyone is at peace. 3.
Healthcare and other necessities are free.
4. Jobs pay enough to live comfortably.
5.
People are treated equally fairly in
6.
People are kind to each other.
7.
The government listens.
8.
Poverty and hunger don't exist.
9. Safety from violence is guaranteed.
10.
Money or economic opportunity is accessible to all.
11.
You shouldn't have to feel paranoid and watch your back.
Question to you. What else we add to this list? Come to our session to become a co-writer for the declaration you're about to hear.
Another question. What kind of leaders do we deserve? We deserve leaders in a government that
1. Understands and listens to all the people and acts in their interests.
2. Are reliable, caring, motivational, and skillful. 3. Make decisions based on what is right, not political sides.
4.
Practice integrity and accountability.
5.
Empathize with the experience of those they lead.
6.
Helps and listens to the community.
7.
Use tax money responsibly.
8.
Cares about the public safety, the homeless, and urban issues.
9.
Protect schools and provide public services.
10.
Allows freedom of movement and respects rights.
11.
Protect rights and provide for all people.
12.
Who will actually care instead of being here for our tax dollars? Do you even care about us and our safety, or are you just doing it for the money?
Question. What do we all have in common? 1.
All people are born equal, but are not always treated equal.
2.
We all have value as human beings.
3.
People are different, but these differences should not change their equality. Question. What are our rights?
4. We have freedom of speech.
5.
We have right to life, food, housing, and health care.
6.
Freedom of religion and personal choice.
7.
Women's rights.
8.
Right to education and free will.
9.
Love who you want. Privacy.
Question. When should people be able to change the government?
People should be able to change the government.
When the government ignores the people's needs or safety.
2.
When leaders abuse power or act destructively.
3.
When taxes or policies are unfair.
4.
When corruption or favoritism occurs.
5.
When the government puts us in a position that could be life or death.
6.
It's time to get rid of the higher up and let the people take over.
Question. What have people in power done to hurt public good?
The people in power have
1.
Ignore homelessness, gun violence, or education funding.
2.
Fail to get homelessness shelters for the homeless.
3.
Misuse money or raise tariffs.
4.
Cut programs or jobs unfairly.
5. Engage in ICE raids, military actions, or abusive practices. 6. Ignored health care or school needs.
7.
Misuse laws or funds to protect themselves.
8.
Separated families or restricted rights.
9.
Violence or invitation without cause.
10. Excessive use of force during protests or political events.
11.
High taxes and cost of living.
12. Taxation or policies without public input.
13.
Policies favoring the wealthy.
14.
Deny justice voting for
15.
Took away women's autonomy and reproductive rights.
16.
Took away freedom of speech, religion, and life.
Question. What do you plan to do about the problems? We plan to get active.
1. Speak up, protest, and vote.
2.
Imagine a future without violence, equality, and fairness.
3.
Imagine community solutions and outreach programs.
4.
Create a government to protect rights.
5.
Vote the leaders out who don't serve us.
6.
Launch a revolution led by young people. My bad.
7.
And we invite you to join us. Come before and after lunch. See us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Let's clap it up again for our youth. And thank you, Kevin, for making sure that they were a part of the Democracy Summit. Kevin is another Dayton Democracy Fellow who does a lot of things as a teacher and all of that good stuff. Okay, y'all, so now we're taking a break and a few snacks, and then after our break at 11 o'clock, the workshops begin. Please refer to your folder for the list of workshops. I believe the workshops that start at 11 are at the top left in that corner. If you guys have any questions, you can connect with a Charles F. Kettering employee. They'll have the tag at the end. But thank you guys, and see you after the workshop. Hello, everyone. Ooh, yeah, we got the spotlight, so I know it's real. Okay. I know you guys are enjoying lunch and conversations with one another, but we're gonna go ahead and get a part of the lunch program started. Right now, we have Bridget Flaherty coming up, a community storyteller, a lore storytelling advocate and partner. Welcome, Bridget.
Thank you, Tejal. It was a warm September evening in 2016, and I was out. I'd had some beverages with some friends, and I was wandering around downtown looking for my next adventure. And that is when I saw him. Piercing blue eyes, a baby face, an Om tattoo, a backpack, and a cardboard sign that said, "Every penny helps." So I asked if I could sit with him on the stoop, and he obliged, and I asked him, "What can I do for you?" He told me that he was hungry, so we walked over to one of the street vendors and got some food, and returned to the stoop, where I proceeded to ask him a whole bunch of questions, like, why are you here, and where do you sleep, and why the Om tattoo, and why don't you get a job? And many of his answers surprised me. He said that he regularly applied for jobs, but they always wanted a phone number to call him back, and he didn't have a phone. Now, up until this point in my life, it never occurred to me that a phone could be the reason that someone is sleeping on the streets. And so I left that evening with my mind full of this young man's situation, and I vowed that if I ever saw him again, that I would buy him a phone. As fate would have it, about 2 weeks later, as I was heading onto the on-ramp onto US 35, on the other side of the barricade was a young man with piercing blue eyes, a baby face, an Om tattoo, a backpack, and a cardboard sign that said, "Every penny helps." So I got off the highway at the next exit, and I found a pay-as-you-go phone store. And for $80, I bought a basic cell phone, a SIM card, and some minutes. I went back to the on-ramp, I pulled over, turned on my flashers, ran over, jumped the barricade, ran over to him, handed him the phone, gave him a hug, and drove away. The very next morning, I moved an hour and a half away for the winter, and I didn't see him again. About a year later, in October 2017, I volunteered with a project here in Dayton called The Longest Table. The Longest Table sought to bring together people from all over the Dayton region to share a meal. More than 500 people had signed up, representing more than 50 zip codes. It was a warm 70 degrees when I arrived to check in as a volunteer at 2 p.m. The dinner table spanning the Dayton Peace Bridge over the Great Miami had been divided into table sections of 6 people each, a table host volunteer like myself, and 5 people strategically chosen to represent different parts of the city to facilitate diversity, discussion, learning, and community building. After volunteer orientation, I headed over to the bridge to find my assigned table section 43. And that is when I saw him. Standing beneath the peace sign on the Dayton Peace Bridge was a young man with piercing blue eyes, a baby face, an Om tattoo, a backpack, and a flower behind his ear. So when I went up to him and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but about a year ago, and he interrupted me and said, you gave me a phone on the on-ramp. So I asked him how he was, what he was doing, what he was up to, and he told me that he had a job at McDonald's and a place of his own. So I gave him a hug, and with tears in my eyes, I invited him to join the longest table. He told me that he felt called to stand beneath the peace sign for a while, but that he would find me to say goodbye before he left. After the opening ceremony, the 500+ people went to find their seats. Every seat was accounted for, and more chairs had to be brought in because more people had showed up for the event than they had accounted for, except for table section 43. One chair remained empty when David found me to say goodbye. Our table section invited him to sit and share a meal with us in the empty chair, and so David sat down. When we went around the table introducing ourselves and saying what part of the city we were from and why we were here, David said that he was here because, quote, God wanted him to be. And the 83-year-old woman to my left responded with an amen. And for the next 3 hours, the 6 of us talked and listened, and David shared with a perspective of our city unique to the streets. I don't know what impact this young man with piercing blue eyes, a baby face, an Om tattoo, a backpack, and a flower behind his ear had on the members of table section 43. But I have no doubt that his presence was more impactful than an empty chair would have been. When I look at what is happening in our country, in our world, in our city, and I feel despair, when I feel like nothing that I do matters, I remember. I remember that we transform our world through small acts of solidarity, by listening, by sharing, by showing up, by sharing a meal together, whether on a table on a bridge or on a stoop or at a democracy summit. When $80 can change a life, when a meal can transform a city, when every penny helps, we can make a difference. We simply need to keep showing up. Thank you.
I'm a little shy when it comes to like call to action with the audience, but I really want to know how many of us are still willing to show up. I mean, you guys showed up today, so that's number one. But like, I don't know, I would just feel like really good if we recommitted to showing up together right now. So if you are committed to continuing to show up, no matter what evil is saying right now, let's just say I together, okay? 1, 2, 3, I. We're all willing to show up. We just made a verbal promise to each other, so don't you forget it. Thank you, Bridget. So now we're gonna go into our second workshop in about 6 minutes, but just an announcement. Peter Levine, he had a session earlier that was unable to happen. So the session with Peter Levine, which is Tips for Democracy, is gonna be in here. So if you are looking for tips for democracy, it is gonna be here in this area where you can convene. There's also massages happening provided by Spectrum New Beginnings and their contracted consultants. And then what else? Oh yeah, we have these step and repeat banners. So have fun, y'all. Take pictures for democracy. Woo! But yeah, we'll see you guys around 2:30, 2:15. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you guys were able to come together, live in curiosity, and cultivate your coalition. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who is still here and still joining us online. Shout out to the production and media team for just making sure that this is a smooth stream for those of you who are viewing online. This next half of the Dayton Democracy Summit is for you to receive and to just bask in just talent and just art and culture. So I'm so excited for this next half. Right now, we have the World House Choir. Clap it up. I'm going to read their mission. So the World House Choir's mission is to perform music that motivates and inspires communities towards justice, diversity, inclusion, and equality as they strive for peace and create a web of mutuality. This choir is directed by Dr. Catherine Roma, who is the artistic director. Let's clap it up for Dr. Catherine. She also shared that this is a choir of 100 people, but today we have 35 wonderful souls here who have taken the time to share with us their art. So let's clap it up for the World House Choir.
Hello, everyone. We're really glad to be here. What we do is we sing in situations like this, but we really want you to join us. So we're going to start out with a piece maybe you know or maybe you don't know. This is my song. We're going to start out, and then we're going to ask you to join in with us. And I hope how many of you are willing to hop in and do a little singing? All right, I heard some whoops and hollers, and that's excellent. Okay, great. Here we go. We're going to go do our first piece. This is my song.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover, leaf, and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, the God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
Thank you very much. Now, this piece The next piece we're doing is We Are the Ones We've Been Waiting For. And this is really what we're all about over these last months, to realize that we have power. The power of the people is stronger than the people in power. And so we just have to come together. So let us, we're going to teach this to you, so we have 2 parts, and then we'll sing in 4 parts. Are you ready? We are the ones. There's a part that just is going to say, we are the ones, we are the ones, and then we'll bring in the melody. But here's the first part.
We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting.
We are the ones we've been waiting for. 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 We are the ones we've been waiting for.
You're amazing. Really great. I don't want to forget to tell you that this music is by Dr. Bernice Johnson Regan, and some of you may be familiar with Sweet Honey in the Rock. And the words are by June Jordan. And then it was arranged, the arrangement we're doing is by Dr. Issei Maria Barnwell, also from Sweet Honey in the Rock. So are you ready to join us? Do you think you haven't had enough rehearsal? Let's try it.
We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we are the ones, we've been waiting. 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 We are the ones, we've been waiting.
The next piece we're going to do, how are we doing for time? I think we're okay. Lead with love. You got to put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. We can agree to that, right? This piece is by, the words and music are by Melanie Demore, a West Coaster who in November or December of 2016 decided she needed to do something that was, write a song that was kind of positive as she looked at what was going to happen in January 2017. Maybe some of you remember. So we're going to put one foot in front of the other and we're going to lead with love. And we're going to teach this melody to you so that you will sing it with us.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Then there's going to be a call response. These sopranos over here are going to call out some words to you. We're going to respond, and we hope you'll respond with us with the verses. And then we'll keep that going. Are you ready? Here we go.
You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Don't give up hope.
Don't give up hope.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
Don't you give up.
Don't you give up.
Keep moving on.
Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love.
Lift up your eyes.
Lift up your eyes.
Don't you despair.
Don't you despair.
Look up ahead.
Look up ahead.
The path is there.
Your path is there. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other one. One foot in front of the other. One foot and lead with love.
I know you're scared.
I know you're scared.
And I'm scared too.
And I'm scared too.
But here I am.
But here I am.
Right next to you.
Right next to you. You gotta put one foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other one. One foot in front of the other. One foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other. One foot in front of the other one. One foot in front of the other. One foot and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other. One foot in front. And lead with love, lead with love.
I don't know, how much time do we have? Is there a timekeeper? Keep going. We have two more songs. Do we have time for two? Two? One? Let's just do one. Okay. I want to respect, because there's a phenomenal poet that's coming up to follow us, and I wouldn't want to take 1 second of her time. This piece is called Never Turning Back. We want you to join us with this one as well, by Pat Humphreys. She works with a friend of hers. They've been writing songs since the folk music since the 80s, and the group is called Emma's Revolution. Never Turning Back. So let's see if we can get you going on this one. You've been fantastic. Let's see. You guys know your I don't have to worry, right? Right.
Don't worry. No worries. We got it. They got it.
Oh, whoops. Ready? I have to get my senses here.
see. Never turning back. Never turning back.
We're gonna stand against all ice raids.
Stand against all ice raids. Stand against all ice raids. Never turning back. Never turning back.
We're gonna take care of each other.
Take care of each other. Take care of each other. Never turning back. Never turning back.
We are queer and straight together.
Queer and straight together. Queer and straight together. Never turning back. Never turning back.
We're gonna keep on loving boldly.
Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Thank you. We're a small group from the World House Choir. I'm very honored to be here on this very auspicious occasion, so thank you very much. I'm looking forward to everything that's happening right now. So thank you.
Let's keep clapping for the World House Choir. All right, everybody. Next up is Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is the first poet laureate of Dayton, Ohio, the Charles F. Kettering Foundation Artist in Residence, and a prominent Dayton artist and educator known for her work in urban creative arts and spoken word. She co-founded Oral Funk Poetry Productions and Signature Educational Solutions. Sierra holds degrees from the University of Toledo and Wright State University and has dedicated her career to community empowerment through the arts. If you don't know, you about to find out about Sierra Leone. Clap it up for Sierra.
Good afternoon. Oh, that was beautiful. The piece I'm going to share today, it took me on a journey through the archives, landmarks, and Dayton's cultural history. It's rooted in the ancient word Sankofa. It's a word used by the Akan people, and it means that we have the capacity to learn from the past and apply it to the present. That it is okay if you are going to go back, you're going to go back and get knowledge and remember all that has been forgotten. This is a symbol, the Sankofa symbol. It adorns the 3rd Street Bridge and also the Seed of Life Memorial in the Oregon District. And that's just to name a couple of prominent locations. This poem is entitled Seeds of Sankofa, City of Seeds. Sankofa is liberty. And I was torn about reading this poem today. I wasn't sure if I was going to go forward with this piece or another. But I thought that this time was befitting to remember history because so much of it is in the process of erasure. And so for me, I thought I would take this moment to honor what MLK calls my somebodyness. Here we go. We are reaching back to 1798 and 1802 to pay homage, back to the first 2 Native Blacks listed on Dayton Township's records as property tax, back before the oldest AME chapel on Hoover Street had an indoor edifice, back before Wheeler's American Sons of Protection could protect residents, back before manacled voices and bodies of colonization traveled up the Ohio River to Pioneer and Springboro Underground Railroad stations, back before Elizabeth Harvey built the foundation that Louise Troy stood upon some 30 years later to become a pioneer of Black education, back before dirt roads beneath our feet became bedrock to a city of seeds and home to the ether and air of innovative discovery, back before when Ohio lands were originally indigenous territory owned and occupied by the Osage, Miami, and Shawnee. A 1795 Greenville Treaty is how they became displaced, and Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan became states. As the natives say, every nation has a trail of tears. Ours trace back past oak tree iniquity, dilapidated landlocked coal mines, steel mills, glass factories, back past eerie man-made canals, tributary riverbanks and lakes pouring into major waterways, flowing side by side down past crops, livestock, tobacco farms, rice plantations, cotton fields, and the evils of Black body experimentation, back before sharks followed slave ships and commodities for sale were gold, salt, ivory, spices, diamonds, and rice, not human life. Back when we were home, when the Akan spoke of a mystical curved-necked bird, feet firmly planted forward, head facing backwards, cradling an egg, back before we go forward, back before we go forward. Ring liberty for the Monty of gnarled hands that placed prayers in every road paved and brick laid. Ring liberty for Major Martin Delaney and his Union Army and Infantry, for Dayton's celebrating Emancipation Day since 1863. Ring liberty for William Jenkins, the first Black patrolman, and others like him, for abolitionist allyship, advocacy, and solidarity. Ring liberty for Dr. Bud Barnes, the first Black clinician, for Joshua and Matilda Dunbar migrating from Kentucky. Ring liberty for majors and minors of Oak Tree and Ivy. Ring liberty for Bishop Daniel Payne and his enduring love for learning, for Margaret Peters and our Afrikaner elders and Midwest culture keepers, for Geraldine Blunden using dance as humanity's healing. Ring liberty for the haven of churches and communities speaking justice to power in the face of the forgotten. Ring liberty for the narrative of rural and urban Rust Belt ingenuity, for folks like Charles F. Kettering, for Dayton becoming the first sanctuary city, for those of us who believe in prioritizing hungry bellies over hurling hurt ring liberty, for we are the ones. We are the grassroots seeds. People together, we can ring, 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 ring. Thank you.
Yeah, what an amazing piece. I think that it's always important for us to hold space and honor those that came before us and reach back and support those that are coming beforehand. So thank you again, Sierra Leone, for the reminder. And let's give it up for Sierra Leone one more time. Wow. All right. I want to invite up Sharon Davies, the CEO and president of the Charles F. Kettering Foundation. Let's clap it up.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you, Sierra Leone, artist in residence, Charles F. Kettering Foundation. That was beautiful, moving, inspirational, Sierra, thank you so much. So sometimes we hear people introduced without further ado. And you might think that our honored guest today doesn't really need an introduction. But Bishop Barber, I'm going to give you one anyway. You're going to get your further ado today because you deserve it, sir. Bishop William Barber is the president and senior lecturer of Repairers of the Breach. He is a bishop with the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries. He's the executive board member of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. He's a professor in the practice of public theology and public policy. He is the founding director of the Center of Public Theology and Public Policy at the Yale Divinity School. He is the co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, and he is a beloved Kettering Foundation Senior Fellow. He is the author of 5 books. We Are Called to Be a Movement, Revive Us Again, Vision and Action in Moral Organizing, The Third Reconstruction, Moral Mondays, Fusion Politics and the Rise of a New Justice Movement, Forward Together, A Moral Message for the Nation, and most recently, White Poverty, How Exposing Myths About Race and Class Can Reconstruct American Democracy. Bishop Barber served as a senior pastor of Greenleaf Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, for 30 years, and as president of North Carolina's NAACP from 2006 to 2017. He was on the national NAACP Board of Directors from 2008 to 2020. He's the architect of the Forward Together moral movement that gained national acclaim in 2013 with its Moral Mondays protests at the North Carolina General Assembly. In 2015, he established Repairers of the Breach to train communities in the moral movement building with Moral Political Organizing Leadership Institute and Summit trainings. He co-authored the 1968 Poor People's Campaign, organized by the Women's Rights Movement, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., the workers' rights movement, religious leaders, and people of all races to fight poverty in the United States. As a moral leader, Bishop Barber, who was engaged in nonviolent civil disobedience and has been arrested more than 15 times. I'm not even sure if that's the right number anymore, Bishop, because I know you've been arrested recently in the nation's capital for praying in the nation's capital. He's a highly sought after speaker. He's given keynote addresses at hundreds of national and state conferences, including the 2016 Democratic National Convention, and a prayer service for President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, prayers at the Vatican, and prayers at the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. He's regularly featured in media outlets like MSNBC, CNN, and NPA, and the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Nation magazine. He's been named one of 2020's BET 100 Entertainers and Innovators. He was the 2019 recipient of the North Carolina Award, the state's highest civilian honor. He was a 2018 MacArthur Genius Award recipient and 2015 recipient of the Franklin D. Roosevelt for Freedom Awards and the Puffin Award. Bishop Barber has had 12 honorary doctorate degrees conferred upon him. He earned a high school degree from Plymouth High, a bachelor's degree from North Carolina Central University, a master's degree of divinity from Duke University, and his doctorate from Drew University with a concentration in public policy and pastoral care. Bishop Barber, we are thrilled to welcome you to the podium and back to Dayton, Ohio. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you so much. I apologize for being a little late. Thank you so much. Wow. Well, we have a saying sometimes in certain situations in the church. This young lady who's helping me with things is the best thing that's happened to me in a long, long, long time. We just got married in May, and so she's not my wife, I'm her husband. So I thank God for her. Tony, take these for me. We say in the church sometimes that some people introduce you and you say, well, if I get to the gates of the city and grace doesn't work, then I'm gonna call on Sharon to try to introduce me. But we're so thankful. And let's she is, in a real sense, taking the Kettering in some places it has wanted to go but didn't go and is now going and growing and growing and growing. And the staff, where are all the staff and Sharon? Let's everybody stand up for them, for Kettering and the staff. Sharon and her staff, the fellows. And, truth be told, I almost missed my opportunity because when they first invited me, I was like, what? And then when they showed me the people they were going to put around the table, it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to do it, be about it. And I always wanted to have people at a diverse table, but I just wondered, I said, well, what is this? Is this just going to be another place where we bring people to the table so we won't have to talk about the issues because everybody is scared to talk about them, so we just, and I found that no, this is a place where we respect views, we build friendships and relationships. I think I did a piece with what was her name? She was a Republican, and I happened to be an independent, but now she's very critical. It was recent. You remember what it was? I may remember it in a minute. But the way in which we're interacting, and Sharon, I say this very seriously, your leadership, I'm so thankful. And it's actually exactly what the nation needs in this moment. Let me also thank the poet, I must say Laureate, the artist in resident who just came before us with that powerful understanding of Sankofa. And let me thank my young brother who welcomed me when I came in the door. It's a Titu from Nigeria. Which tribe there, Nigeria? Igbo? Right, so let's thank him. He was so gracious, and he doesn't know me from anybody, but he... And all the members of the Poor People's Campaign, National Call for Moral Revival that are here. And I want to make a couple of announcements real quick. In November, you're all going to get it soon, Repairers of the Breach and Moral Mondays are going to hook up with Indivisible, and we're going to do a massive Moral Monday across the nation and invite people to engage in various forms of moral action, because the truth of the matter is only moral frameworks have the language to challenge authoritarianism. I'm in conversation with a number of experts in authoritarianism, and they say in a moment like this, if people of faith, that is not to the dismay, dislike of people not of faith, but people of faith have to speak in this moment, have to be engaged, because faith has a language, a prophetic language that can take on authoritarianism. And authoritarianism is not just one person. It is what we call in the scriptures wickedness in high places. And that's a whole nother sermon. So, and also on this coming Thursday campaign, I need, if possible, 2 clergy and 1 impacted person. We are going to meet with Hakeem Jeffries as clergy from the South and a few other places to lay this out. And we've asked for a meeting with Johnson as well, because we're serious. We have a responsibility to talk to anybody and either call them to repentance or challenge what they're doing. But what we don't have the opportunity, the responsibility to do is be quiet. Not now. And then lastly, I just want to thank a brother. When we coming in, I was a little late, Sharon. Children just get to my heart, and he said there was a van load of children. They had to leave and go back to school, and they couldn't stay. And I walked over, and they're all juniors. And as I got to the door, I just greeted them, and then something just says, share this poem with them. Fleecy locks and dark complexion cannot alter nature's claim. Skin colors may differ, but perfection dwells in black and white just the same. Were I as tall to reach the pole or could grasp the whole ocean with a span, I must be measured by my soul, for the mind is the standard of the man or the woman. And it was written by a white abolitionist. Dr. King sometimes quoted it, and I quoted it to those young kids, and one of the young ladies just teared up. And she just said, you know, I needed that today. I needed somebody to speak to me and remind me that nothing changes nature's claim, not whatever skin color. And she thanked me for coming over, but I thanked her for thanking me because it meant so much. And sometimes, I don't care what our schedules are, when the pull of the Spirit says change, because you never know, one word, one voice, one handshake, one hug might just be what moves somebody's life in that moment that affects them for the rest of their lives. So I apologize a little bit for being a little late, but sometimes. What it takes to change a nation's heart, so I want to talk about today. Earlier this year, Trump's first State of the Union was on the night before Ash Wednesday. And I and many others took that to be somewhat of a prophetic sign. Because in the Christian tradition, Ash Wednesday is a day for repentance. what we call in Greek metanoia. And in Nigeria and in some of the languages of Africa, repentance means to have your head taken off and another one put on. It means to change your entire way of thinking. People used to say to repent means to turn all the way around, but if you turn all the way around, you're right back in the same place. Ash Wednesday, like Yom Kippur, in the Jewish tradition, is a time of repentance. And in Yom Kippur, Isaiah 58 is one of the major texts where it says we ought to cry loud and spare not and lift our voices like a trumpet. Kol shofar is the word in Jewish, in Hebrew. Lift our voices like a trumpet and tell the nation of its sins. And I heard what my native ancestors called the Great Spirit saying this past Ash Wednesday that we need to call this nation and its leadership to repentance. And so we had a special online State of the Union that more than 250,000 people showed up to on, what's his name, honey? Black, not Lawrence, come to me in just a minute. What's it? Roland Martin. And repent of what? Because part of what we had to say is, if you think this is just about a person, you're missing it. That what needs to happen in this nation is greater than just a person. There's a scholar out of Atlanta that says much of what we're seeing is the iconography of a too often repeated reality. And that sometimes a person, you know, authoritarianism and neo-fascism do like to focus on a person, and they like to get us focused on a person so that we miss the real foundations and the roots and the systems, the organization that's upholding it. So one of the things we said in that speech, we had to repent of the idolatry of certainty. Della first gave me that when she said, you need to look at that movie called The Conclave. And in that movie, he talks about how white supremacy, well, in that particular movie, how it is the idolatry of certainty. Anytime you think that you are certain who has it and who doesn't have it, who's good and who's not good, who's smart and who's not smart, who's top and who's not, that kind of idolatry can lead to all kinds of ugly things, from Jim Crow to slavery to the destruction of indigenous people, the idolatry of certainty. We need to repent of the tyranny of technology. Nothing wrong with technology, but this new notion of technological feudalism that is pushed by people like Elon Musk and others, where they literally believe only the folk that know technology should be doing anything, should be leading anything. Because technology allows you to be cold, shark-eyed, hard, dismiss other people's personhood. Then we need to repent of the disregard for humanity. It was around about that time that some people had gotten a letter dollar in their emails asking them to prove that they were a person. And when I heard that people got that letter, I thought about slave patrols. Because that's what slave patrols would tell people, show me your papers. And whenever we start going down that road of saying based on something as accidental as color of skin, you got to show me your papers. We need to repent of that disregard for men. We need to repent of the denial of equality and the betrayal of liberty. In other words, the misuse of freedom. You know, we're not just free to do whatever we want to do. You know, some years ago, they came up in the law and said, you can't just get in a crowded room and say fire because you feel like it. And then some people get killed and you say, well, I didn't have anything to do with it. No, our freedom has to have guidance. Guidance. And then we have to repent of this myth that poor people and low-wage people are our problem. They are the problem of society. And as a bishop in the Lord's church, I think this moment is still trying to tell us something. You know, when we had a similar moment, this is not the first time we dealt with authoritarianism, by the way. You all know that in American history. It's not the first time we've dealt with neo-fascist attitudes, not the first time we've dealt with it. Back in 1850-something, 57, I believe it was, the Supreme Court was stacked intentionally by slaveholders. And they took on a case called the Dred Scott decision. And they voted unanimously that black people had no rights that a white person ever had to pay attention to, because the goal was to maintain slavery, not for the color of skin, but for money. As Ibram Kendi reminds us, you miss it if you think that racism and slavery in this country began first as a dislike of color. He said it began first for a love of money. And then the color piece was added on, and perpetual slavery, that was added on. In other words, who will we make this money off of? That became the question. And thank you so much. Was talking about, in 57, they passed it, and Frederick Douglass got depressed. He literally said, this is it. This is nothing we can do in this country. It's over. Frederick Douglass, the man that we hear that was so strong, the great orator, he went to Philadelphia, put his head in his hand, and said, I'm through. There's no hope. And two things happened to him. One was that Harriet Tubman saw him one day like that, and she screamed at him and said, Frederick, is God dead? Now, I didn't say it in the voice Harriet used because I didn't want to scare you all, but now that you have it, I can say it how she said it. Frederick, is God dead? And Frederick said it shook him because he, for a moment, had allowed this stacked Supreme Court to become his God. And when he was shaken from that, Frederick said, I got to speak about this. And he asked the Abolitionist Society to let him speak in 2 months. And he spent time writing a speech. And he opens the speech talking about how monstrous the decision was. He goes on for 40 minutes. He says, everything is against us. The magistrates are against us. The army is against us. The courts are against us. And you would think if you stop reading that speech that it ends with that kind of dismay. But then, because he has recentered himself on who is his ultimate trust and hope, and because he has recentered himself that even in every bad moment, something is being taught. My grandmother used to say, a broke clock is right twice a day. And Frederick ends by saying, as monstrous as this decision is, I now receive it with a cheerful spirit, because I can now see that as terrible as it is, maybe this is a necessary link in the chain of events that will create the kind of pain that will cause everybody that's needed to come together to destroy the vestiges of slavery. So therefore, he says, in this moment, it is not teaching us to bow down. Instead, this moment is calling on us to intensify and embolden our agitation. This moment that we're in, we cannot let the nation go down this path without being maladjusted, if you will. We cannot adjust to the evil actions, the greed and the love of money and the hatred for people that we see being perpetrated. And why you say, Reverend Barber, here you go, using the word evil. No, I didn't use it. Isaiah 10 used it. Isaiah 10 says, woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights and make women and children pray, P-R-E-Y. And a sociologist in the 19th century said that whenever you pass a piece of public policy and you know that it's going to cause destruction and death, he said you must call it policy murder or policy violence. He said you can't call it policy manslaughter because it's not accidental. You know exactly what you're doing. It's not involuntary manslaughter when you know, and he said you must call it that. And for a long time, that word policy violence had entered into the academy. And then Coretta Scott King, that beautiful, brilliant, powerful sister that was right on Vietnam before her husband. Did y'all know that? That Coretta was right on Vietnam before her husband. That Coretta was a part of the women who actually started the Poor People's Campaign and invited Martin to come in. And when they had murdered, and I say they because they've never believed it was just one person, when they had murdered her husband, 39 years old, shot with a deer rifle as he stood on the balcony of the Laureate Hotel, Andy Young says he was dead before he hit the pavement because the bullet severed his spine. And someone asked Coretta, what do you think about murder and violence now that you have experienced it at this level? And Coretta answered them when she spoke about 2 months after her husband's death on June 18th for the Solidarity March in Washington, D.C. at the beginning of the Poor People's Camp that they would camp out for weeks until they were forced out of the nation's capital. She first got up and sung, "Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here. Come by here, my Lord. Come by here, oh Lord. Come by here." I'm seeing her in the spirit now, a widow, husband dead, children hurting, broke, no money, because Martin didn't die with any money. And her soprano voice, her voice shearing out, just speaking out over the crowd. And then she says to them, someone asked me about violence. But violence is not just my husband being killed. Violence is denying a child education. Violence is denying people their culture. Violence is not letting people have medical health care. Violence is not paying people wages. But then she says, even an apathetic attitude that refuses to challenge these other forms of violence is also violence. So for a few minutes now, I want to do something that doctors do before they tell you how to fix something. They first have to diagnose it. And the diagnosis isn't always nice. They poke and they prod and they push and they hold and you know, to get to a diagnosis, it's rough sometimes. But this is not the moment for us just to grab a protest sign and run out because we think we dismayed with one person. We really do need a serious analysis about why this moment is a moment that we need all hands on deck. Because we are not merely facing in this moment a crisis of democracy. I would suggest we are facing a crisis of civilization itself. One fact, we've got to learn to start changing language. You know, they call this bill the big, beautiful bill. And I would go to different places and people who were against it were still calling it beautiful. And I would say, why? Why would you use language that you don't even agree with? You know, why would you even call somebody on the right and then try to prove everybody else they're wrong? I said, why not call it what it is? When you look at it, what you're dealing with here is a big, ugly deadly, destructive bill. That's what you're dealing with. And notice I didn't put a party on it. I'm talking about the policy. I'm not talking about electing anybody. I'm talking about the policy. And we decided that what we had to do was get some of our friends, some of our people who know how to study. So we went to the Institute for Policy Study and said, give us the top 10 nonpartisan ugliest impacts of this 1,000-page bill. It's 1,000 pages, y'all. And when you read through this bill, you see the policy answers to 2020. What's that, Project 20? But you also, if you read it, can see into the future. Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of what we see going on now is not about 2025, it's about 2035. When the country will no longer be majority white, it'll be 33, 33, 33, or headed that way in a way that it can never be turned around, which means the very demographics of the nation are going to force us to have to get along. It's going to force another kind of politics. Now, there's two ways you can approach it. You can be glad about that and work toward it, or you can decide that your goal in politics is to stop it from coming or to slow it down or to make sure when your kind of meanness can never again get elected, you have destroyed the government in such a way that, like Mandela, by the time he got out, he was president with no power, no money. The military, he didn't even have the military, he had no money to cut the rope. So all that he wanted to do and had dreamed about doing in prison, so much of it he couldn't do. Because by the time he got elected, apartheid and those working apartheid had worked so hard. They knew eventually they were going to have to let him go, but they worked so hard at dismantling the government. And I believe what we're seeing right now is a dismantling. And this big, ugly, deadly, destructive bill was passed by a Congress that won by the narrowest margin. Do you know 90 million people didn't vote in last year's election, and the congressional majority is the way it is because of only 7,000 votes. Trump signed it into law on July 4th. And this bill represents the largest transfer of wealth from poor to the wealthy that was transferred from the slaves to the slave master. I want you to think about that. This is not freedom. This bill may have been signed on July 4th, but it doesn't represent freedom. It represents an enslavement. This bill, it will enslave the government from having the money to do things it needs to do, because America is the only of the 25 richest countries in the world that does not offer some form of universal health care, even though we spend more than any other nation in the world. But this bill, if it's not turned over, if it's not changed, will hamper the nation long after the current actors are in place. This bill represents a kind of national enslavement. This bill will enslave people into a reality without health care. In the very time that prices are high and groceries are high, this bill will enslave people in the absence of food. I was talking to somebody last night, and they were saying that in certain places, farmers' rates of suicide have gone up even more, where farmers are committing suicide but making it look like something accidental just so that their families can have some money because they cannot see their way out of. And when you look at what's going on, look at this bill. Let's look at 10. I know it's a tough diagnosis, but we'll get to the hope. But here's the diagnosis. Number one, this bill is death by denial of health care, cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Act, and there's no way you could do the cutting that's happening without touching Social Security. But this bill, before it was ever passed, Yale and the University of Pennsylvania did a study and said that 51,000 people will die in the first year from the passage of this bill, this new law and other policy changes. It will strip health insurance from 17 million people. Some of it is because now they're adding rigid red tape-laden work requirements in the bill that are unlikely to actually increase employment. Most Medicaid enrollees already work. And even those who do work can end up without health care if the red tape trips up their ability to prove it. My brothers and sisters, this bill we're talking about, and the folk that passed it, what is ugly about it is every congressperson gets free health care because you elect them. Now think about that. Think about what's going on in somebody's mind. What kind of mythology has gotten a hold of you when you get free health care because you get elected to Congress, and then you don't want the people that elected you to have what the people are giving you? If you're at a table with some folks, tell them that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make no sense. And last week, Marjorie Greene found out it didn't make any sense because she voted for the bill and didn't check. Now she found out, oh, my children are going to lose health care. Isn't her name Green? Isn't that her name? Is that right? This bill, say this bill, will create a hospital apocalypse. This budget reduces the allowable Medicaid partners' taxes that many states use to fund this program, and the threat is particularly in rural hospitals. Now, you know, they use that as a code word for white. I don't like that because black folk in rural areas too, brown folk in rural areas too. What we need to do is an analysis that just shows how many black people, how many white people, how many Latinos, how many Asians, how many natives. But what we do know is more than 700 rural hospitals are at risk for closure, and that 338 rural hospitals, including hospitals in nearly every state, are at risk because of this budget. What does a hospital closure look like? Can I tell you, if you can stomach it? Hospital closure looks like what happened in North Carolina when the North Carolina governor, McCrory, and the legislature would not expand Medicaid. You know, none of the southern states except for Virginia, I think in Louisiana, expanded Medicaid. People were going around saying they wanted Medicaid, but they didn't want Obamacare. And most time we don't get the reels, the film reels out of those state legislatures, but some ugly stuff is said in state legislatures. I would sit up there and hear people literally say things like, this bill is just for those lazy so-and-so and so on the floor. And they blackened the bill. That's what they did in order to get people to turn against it. When in fact in North Carolina, 500,000 people were denied Medicaid expansion until recently they were forced to pass it. 350,000 people were white. 150,000 were black. 30,000 were veterans, people formerly in the military. But what most people didn't realize was rural hospitals can't stay open without the money that comes through Medicaid expansion. What does it look like? It looks like a young lady who I met in Belhaven, North Carolina. The mayor was white and Republican. The hospital had to close, was starting to close. He came to the NAACP, came to me and said, you know, we're probably on different sides of the issue. I said, not necessarily. He said, I don't agree with what my party is doing as it relates to Medicaid expansion because it's going to crush our city. He said, will you work with me? I said, sure, we'll work together. We began to work together. I met a young lady. She was with us at the first meetings. Long story short, she gets sick one day, and the hospital has closed. As far as they can get her is to the high school parking lot. She dies 3.5 minutes from the former hospital, waiting on the helicopter to come from Greenville. 41 years old. The first person that I know of in rural eastern North Carolina that died because of the denial of North Carolina of Medicaid expansion was a white Republican woman. And her husband joined the movement, and we walked together fighting, but they did close that hospital. What does this bill look like? It looks like taking millions of food from children and veterans. It looks like squeezing states on SNAP. November the 1st is going to be terrible when people began to really lose SNAP. And it's an unprecedented burden that's being pushed to the states. So the very folk that are voting for it and saying, go, go, go Vance, go Trump, go Congress, after November 2nd, now they're going to have to figure out where all that money and where all that pain goes. And you watch what happens. This is a law, this bill, it includes more money for immigrant hostage taking, and immigrant hurting, and immigrant terrorizing. 2.6 million U.S. citizens who are children that live with only an undocumented adult are expected to lose their child tax credit. This bill will cut health care but provide another $170 billion to the budget to arrest, detain, and deport immigrants, and for a border wall and militarization in the next few years. And this includes $45 billion for building new immigration detention centers, including family detention centers, which is a 265% increase. It also includes an additional $29 billion for deportation. This is not just about this moment. Somebody wants immigrants out of this country because they are afraid of what they will do as citizens and who they will organize with and vote with. And we have to talk about it deeper. This thing takes from the poor and it gives to the rich. The Yale analysis of the bill combined tax and spending policy finds that the poorest 20% of households will suffer a net income loss of $700 a year, while the top 1% would receive a $30,000 increase. Despite most increases in the maximum child tax credit, the budget will still deny benefits to 17 million children. But for the wealthy, the changes to the estate tax will mean that wealthy heirs will enjoy a one-time tax saving of $6.4 million, while 99.8% of American families will not get a single penny. What does this bill do? Two more. It leaves corporations to enjoy their spoil. This budget, 1,000 pages, keeps the corporate tax rate at 21%, a reduction from 35%, despite the fact that the ordinary worker have not benefited from this tax reduction. This budget also includes more than $1 billion in new tax breaks and subsidies for the fossil fuel, or in other words, for the oil companies. And all you have to do is look at a movie called Bad Faith, and it traces how oil money and Christian, so religious, not Christian, religious nationalism are connected. This bill rewards polluters. Now, we don't have but one planet that we know of. And the folk that are going out of space, you and I can't afford that ticket anyway. But the budget allows oil and gas companies to avoid paying fees for polluting. I mean, we have to ask the question, what's going on deeper here? I know this is tough. I can see it on your faces. But most folk have never really read this bill, and I've decided that we got to stop for a moment and understand what you're facing. It's like when a doctor, they don't just give, not a good doctor, now the bad ones will just throw some medicine at you. But good doctors take their time to see what's really going on. And then finally, this bill funds war. $1.1 trillion for the Pentagon. If we just took 10% of that and put it toward programs that work, we could basically eradicate the denial of health care. Did you know that our current defense budget, even before this, if you cut it in half, we still would have more money than Iran, Iraq, North Korea, and Russia and China combined? And it was a Republican, Eisenhower, that said we better be careful of the military industrial. Now, they took this part out of his speech. He said congressional complex. They took that part out. But he did say the military, and he was a general. He was a general. Here we are. Elon Musk, who's got all of these contracts, $25 billion, they want to build a golden dome, a missile defense system that's in this budget rather than health care. $14 billion for a new artificial intelligence-driven weapons system. My children the other day said, Daddy, you better go start looking at, what was that movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in with all the Terminator? I said, what? And then I'm saying, wait a minute now. And you think about this. I'm more concerned about funding something that's artificial than taking care of people who are real. And I'm more concerned about giving more money for people wearing masks as they arrest people. Now, I'm from the South. When folk come to your door with a gun and got masks on, we only think about one thing, the KKK or Nazis, where I am from the South. And now, do you know how they're recruiting people to ICE? They're quoting Isaiah chapter 6. Oh yeah, where it says, who will go and who will go, who will I send and who will go for me? It comes out of a prophetic call. It was the same thing used by the garbage workers in 1968 in Memphis. And now they're using that quote. I've got some friends doing some research, and they found out that that was also a quote used by the KKK when they invited young men. It is a perversion, a perversion, a perversion. And so here we now in the midst of all of this big, ugly, deadly bill, we shut the government down. We shut the government down. Poor people are hurting, we shut the government down. People who need health care, we shut the government down. Federal employees, we shut the government down, shut the government down. And I don't care what they say about it and how they aren't talking about the health care from and who they're taking health care from and who really needs it and who doesn't. What we are dealing with is a lie rooted in this idea of the undeserving poor, the undeserving poor. I don't know, where I'm from in the South, every state but Florida has a poverty rate higher than the US average. And together, these states are facing more than $160 billion in federal Medicaid funding cuts over the next 10 years. In other words, then the part of the country where 1/3 of all poor white people live, 1/3 of all poor people live, they're going to experience the biggest cuts while their senators voted for it. That's why, Sharon, we are now clergy and impacted people with repairs of the breach tomorrow Monday. We're marching on those senators' offices with caskets, with ministers' investment, and with impacted people. And you know what they're doing? They are putting their offices in private buildings. But this is what happens. Before we get there to pray, and we go there to pray and to expose what they're doing nonviolently, they have on the building open to the public at about 9 o'clock. At about 9:30, they put a sign out saying closed to the public. This is a private building. But what it also exposes is how afraid they are for people to really understand the truth. Let me give a few more pieces and I'm through. 180,000 people have already been deported since the president took office, and Stephen Miller wants 400,000 people this year. They are flying 12 charter planes of people out of the U.S. every day. Some of them are military planes. And in the month of June alone, ICE arrested 2,000 immigrants in Los Angeles with no criminal records. With no criminal records. The majority from Mexico and Guatemala, and they were told, and you know one of the ugliest immoral things about this is when we talk about people coming from Mexico, if we really want to tell the historical truth, they are not coming to our country, they're coming back to theirs. I mean, if you want to really know the real history, California, New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas was theirs. right? And many of our policies in those countries created the kind of violence and economic upheaval that would want them to come. But historically, they're not coming something that was ours. Oh, have mercy. Trump told us, though, didn't he tell us that he was only going after the so-called bad guys? I asked somebody last week because I'm like, don't be loud and wrong, Barbara. Don't be loud and wrong. So I keep some PhDs around. Somebody knows some facts, Sharon. You tell us that too. And we found out now that less than 8% of the detainees have serious criminal records. Less than 8%. But here's the part we're not hearing. If Trump and Miller and their agents are able to achieve their stated goal of deporting 4 million people over 4 years, that's the goal. There will be 3.3 million fewer employed immigrants and 2.6 million fewer employed U.S.-born workers at the end of that period. Unemployment in the construction sector will drop sharply. U.S.-born construction employment will fall by over 800,000, and immigrant employment will fall by 1.4 million. And the deportations will eliminate 500,000 child care jobs. And in California, and Florida and New York and Texas, they will have the highest number of job losses due to the larger immigrant populations in these states. This isn't about protecting us. This is about something I heard Steve Bannon on a tape saying, that their goal was to dismantle the administrative state, and their goal was to push immigrants out of the country to protect from a future possible voting bloc of white and black and brown people. Their goal was to take over the Justice Department and use it as their own weapon. Their goal was to cut taxes and put more money in the hands of their people. And their goal was to tell the president to write any executive orders that he wanted to distract us and the media from the policy. See, an executive order is not policy. It can be overturned. It can be overturned, right? It can be overturned by the Congress. It can be overturned by the courts. It's not a permanent thing. So Bannon said, and we can get you the tape if you want to look at it, that they said, be as crazy as you want to be while we work on the real stuff. And then lastly, my brothers and sisters, we got health care, and if people don't have health care, they die. If people are pushed out of the country, then they're no longer here to participate in the democracy. But then there's one more thing. Mid-year redistricting. Let me have that the brown one. You know, you're only supposed to redistrict every 10 years. Because it's based on what? The census. But now we have this mid-year, and I could talk about a lot of places, but let me talk about North Carolina, where we actually beat in 2017 the extremists as it relates to this. We proved in court that what they were doing was racism with surgical intention. And we proved it before a court that was put in place primarily by George Bush. But the argument was so strong. And we argued race. Now they want people to argue just partisanism, but we can't just do that. This is what's going on right now in North Carolina, and you need to know this because North Carolina, if it doesn't change, has the possibility of reshaping the Congress and reshaping the Senate. I ain't telling you who to vote for. I'm just telling you what could happen, right? Now listen, our House Speaker named Destin Hall went on camera and said, President Trump earned a clear mandate from voters in North Carolina. He only won by about 1.5%. That's not a mandate. And about 2 million people stayed home. Now, that is a problem. I'm talking about that folks got to stop staying home. But he didn't win some massive landslide, right? He said, and he wants the maps redrawn, and we are obligated to do it. You ever heard Congress people talk like you're supposed to have separation of power? It's no accident. So what did they do in North Carolina? They decided, I know what we'll do. And they did it after 7 million people went in the streets with no King's Day. It's no accident that they're scrambling to consolidate power as millions of Americans are starting to find out what happened in this big, ugly, deadly bill, and they're upset, black, white. Even 68% of Republicans in Mississippi now want health care. Oh my goodness. And so now what do they want to control? They want power so that they can cut health care, block living wages, cut taxes for the wealthiest Americans, hurt the poor, low wealth, and put people out of the country. North Carolina is a diverse state. President won by, as I said, about 2 percentage points. Basically a 50-50 split. Means thousands of people stayed home. Actually, over 1 million people stayed home. In 2024, our North Carolina Supreme Court justice came down to a margin of 734 votes. 734 votes out of millions cast. As recently as 2022 in the midterm election, North Carolina's congressional delegation was 7-7. Hear me now. We in North Carolina, a southern state, we're the only southern state that has held on to a progressive governor, attorney general, lieutenant governor, where we lost 1 year, came back. But understand, North Carolina, by fighting in the courts and winning, our delegation was 7-7. It used to be 10-2. Then they changed the maps and it went to 11-1. Then we went to court and won and made it 7-7. Now, with what they're doing, it will make it 11-3. That's what they're trying to do. And they're saying it openly and boldly. The president told us to do this. Even though 80% of North Carolinians do not want partisan gerrymandering, Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't matter. And they decided this time, and my wife and I were talking about it, that they were going to attack the 1st Congressional District. Now, you all need to hear this because they're testing North Carolina to see how to do it around the rest of the country. In the other places, they moved and they changed the district, but in North Carolina, what they're trying to do is go after the historic 1st Congressional District. The 1st Congressional District is where the majority of the slaves were during slavery. The 1st Congressional District is 40% black and 7% Latino. The 1st Congressional District is the district that gave North Carolina the first congressperson after the last congressperson left the United States Congress when Reconstructed was deconstructed. And she was Eva Clayton, was a woman. The 1st Congressional District is a jewel. It sits right between the hills of Raleigh and the Atlantic Ocean, the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. And this is what they decided to do. They're going to go in that district and take out Wilson, Wayne, and Pitt County. Just take them out. 3 strong black districts. And what they're going to do is move them to the 3rd district and claim they're just doing it for partisan reasons. But when you look at the number, they are slicing out black voters and putting them in a district that's overwhelmingly, quote unquote, extremist to undermine the power of the vote in virtue. And it's not even to elect a black candidate, because for a while, the 1st Congressional District elected a white person, but the point of the Voting Rights Act was to elect the candidate of your choice. Sharon, if they get away with this, the black belt, this historic district, and they do it this openly, all bets are off in every state. That means there will be a direct going after. And it's not just about black folk, it's about fusion coalition where black and brown and white folk join together. See, the thing that folk miss about the South is that after slavery, poor white folk who figured out that they had been cheated during slavery by the slave masters began to vote for majority black alliances. And they built these fusion coalitions, black and white, all over the South. Every state in the South, by 2 years after the Civil War, 3 years after the Civil War, they were all controlled by either majority black legislators or strong black legislators who hooked up with white people. And this is the kind of stuff they did. They passed public education. They passed better laws for workers' rights. Even in the 1800s, they passed voting rights. In my state, when black and white people got together after 1865, in 1868, a white preacher from Ohio, who had come to North Carolina, and a black preacher from Pennsylvania, J.W. Hood, who became the president of Livingstone College. They joined together and helped write the preamble of the Constitution. And let me tell you what they were thinking. Listen to this. This is 1868. This is the fear of extremism, because we're at our best when we come together. And this is what they wrote. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all persons, this is 1868, not all men, all persons are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the enjoyment of the fruit of their own labor and the pursuit of happiness. That's the preamble. Article 1, public education is the right, not of all children, of all persons. Article 1, secret societies are a bad thing for a democracy. Article 1, this state cannot pass any laws that contradict the federal government's laws, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, and any further amendments that push us forward. That's what happened when black and white folk came together. And going after this first congressional district in North Carolina is a challenge to the whole nation. It's the 13th poorest district in the, one of the 13 poorest districts in the country. We beat them, as I said, the NAACP versus McCrory. But this is about black, Latino, and poor, low-wage workers and whether or not they will have representation. The map was drawn in secret. Hear me. They didn't have any public hearings except on the day of. See, they're modeling. If they do this, the goal is to do it in North Carolina and then spread it through the South. They're doing it because they have the power to do it. They're doing it because but this is the other way. They're doing it because they are afraid. And this is where I want to close. They are afraid. They know that in 2013, when Moral Monday was born, 50 people walked into the General Assembly to hold up signs and to challenge what they had done. They arrested us. And in 6 months, 100,000 people in the street in a southern state. More people than even during the Civil Rights Movement. They are afraid. When we started Moral Monday in 2013, the governor was at 60+% in the polls. In 6 weeks of Moral Monday, he was down to under 49% and never recovered. In fact, he went all the way down to about 39%. They are afraid. In Moral Monday, 60% of the people that got arrested were white. It wasn't just about black. They are afraid. In Moral Monday, the people from Appalachia and black folk from Eastern North Carolina got together because we found out that there is something very similar between civil rights activism and moral Appalachian populism. They got together. We sent a governor home. We sent a Tea Party incumbents home. We won in the court, and we went to court with a civil rights bill against challenging racism in the voting laws, but our plaintiffs were white and black and brown and churches and natives. People would call and say, what in the world are y'all doing? I thought this was about black folk. We're saying, but what we're trying to show is that racism creates a diminished democracy. Not just for black folk, but for everybody. And that hadn't been the case in litigation, but we went in and we won. And we said we're not about anybody, and now the goal is to see how they can make people bow. But what we believe is that this gerrymandering is going to become dumbermandering, because their models, and this is where I go home, Sharon, their models are based on a 45% turnout. What if we organize? We're not going to tell people who to vote for. We just going to organize. And what if we turn out 60% of the votes in the 1st Congressional District? Then actually what has happened is they will have wakened the giant they should have let be asleep. So we've decided this coming Sunday at the church where my wife pastors, we're having the first mass meetings declaring this is our Selma. This is our Selma to Montgomery, and we're having mass meetings all over eastern North Carolina, and we're saying we must recover our moral vision because, you know, authoritarianism wants you to engage in moral deregulation. The goal of an authoritarian is to make you stop believing what you know is true and just give up. They want you to deregulate your moral beliefs. But we are going in and we're going to talk about recovering moral vision, recovering moral organizing, recovering moral insights. That is, some things are necessary, and you got to understand when you're going through a moment of pain that's actually going to lead you to a moment of power. We are going to recover moral calling and moral effort. Moral effort means that you realize that you're born for this, that if you're alive, it's your time to fight. That's what moral effort means. Moral effort means that you decide, like Dr. King said, I could have been born in any other time in the world, but I'm glad I was born in the second half of the 20th century when people are standing up for justice. Moral effort says, I recognize if I haven't gone to sleep yet, God must have work for me to do. Now understand, if you recover moral vision and moral organizing and moral insight and moral calling and moral effort, you spell that out with the first letter, you get voice. Voice. And you recover your moral voice. And understand, in Hebrew, what did I tell you at the beginning? That the same word for vote and the same word for voice is the same word. It's kol. In other words, your voice is your vote, and your vote is your voice. And what we've come to understand, that what we see happening now is contrary to our greatest moral foundation. It's contrary to what the prophet said in the Bible. It's contrary to what Jesus said about how you would judge a nation. It's contrary to what Abraham Lincoln said about our ancient faith. It's contrary to the Constitution that says we're supposed to establish justice and provide for the common defense and ensure domestic tranquility and promote the general welfare. It's contrary. It's contrary. And when something is contrary and we see it in plain sight and it's far below the call of love and justice and mercy, we must recover our voice. Look at your neighbor like I would in church and tell them your voice is needed like never before. If Franklin Delano Roosevelt used his voice, we have to use our voice. If Dr. King and Rosa Parks used their voice, we have to use our voice. We are watching a dark vision trying to take over the country and the world, but we don't have to stay here. Do you know that 19 million people that voted in 2020 didn't vote in 2024? I don't mean they voted for somebody else. They didn't vote. In fact, 19 million of them voted for Biden. Do you know the reason they did not vote when they were asked? And it's not because they're disinterested in politics. They said, nobody's talking about the poor. 87 million poor and low-wage people in this country, 30 million of them stayed home. The number one reason they stayed home is nobody talks to them. Well, we've got to start talking to them. We've got to go everywhere we can. We've got to build, because authoritarianism does not want the people to stand up. It never has and it never will. But we've got to have a coming together of the people. We've got to call for this repentance, the idolatry of certainty, the tyranny of technology, the disregard of humanity, the denial of equality, and the betrayal of liberty. In other words, we have to have a meeting, my brothers and sisters, because I said in 2016, when I spoke at the Democratic Convention, that we needed to be moral defibrillators. And I really thought that then, Sharon. I thought that what we needed to be was moral defibrillators, and if we came together, we could shock the heart of the nation and we could change it. But now, what I'm seeing now, when I see this kind of neoliberalism that relies on trickle-down in economics, when I hear even the last pope and this pope talking about how that kind of policy is bad and it's contrary to Christian values, when I see insurrections being motivated by greed and white supremacy, I don't think we just need to be moral defibrillators. I think we need a heart transplant. Lord have mercy. So I went to my doctor and I asked my doctor, how do you have a heart transplant? And my doctor said, well, you can do it, but you got to figure out how to change the heart without killing the body. I said, well, how do you do that? He said, every heart transplant begins with a serious meeting. You got to get everybody in the room. You got to get everybody that's got anything to do with the procedure in the room, from the people who clean the room all the way up to the people who hold the scalpel. And everybody has got to know we got one shot at this. Y'all don't hear what I'm saying. We got one shot at this, and we can't make any mistakes on this one. And we've got a shot to give this person a brand new life by giving them a brand new heart. And then on the day of the transplant, it takes everybody, because they've had a meeting of all the surgeons and all the nurses and everybody together. And when everybody gets together and everybody gets on the same page, you can have a heart transplant and change a person's life. You can see a person dying when they go in, but after the transplant, they live for another 20, another 30 years when you cut through all of the foolishness and you get together. So what I'm arguing for is time to have a meeting, because America needs a transplant. It's time to get everybody in the room. It's time to get you in the room, and me in the room, and black folk in the room, and brown folk in the room, and Latinos in the room, and Asian folk in the room, and indigenous folk in the room. Everybody who believes in justice, come on in the room. Everybody who believes in equality, come on in the room. Everybody that wants the nation to be better for your grandchildren, come on in the room. Everybody that knows we can be better than this foolishness that we're seeing now, come on in the room. Everybody that fought before, but you got one more fight in you, come on in the room. Is there anybody in here that's got one more fight, one more battle, one more fight, one more time? Tell the person beside you, we need everybody in the room. It's time for a heart transplant. Transplanted with love. Transplanted with justice. Transplanted with equality. Let everybody come in the room until we are one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want everybody.
How many of y'all want to be in the room? All right. Tell me what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. All right, y'all. Right now, more than ever, our democracy is at stake. Our democracy depends on people who are willing to listen, learn, and lead together. Every step, every voice, every vote shares this shared future. There is a place for everyone in building a beloved community, a beloved world that we want to see with this movement for an inclusive democracy. This summit is more than just a convening, it's a call to action. It's a call to action for all of us to reimagine. It's a call to action for all of us to reimagine what is possible when we center equity, courage, and each other. Coalition. Whether you show up with your time, with your talent, your vote, or your vision, you belong in the room.
That's right. That's right.
Get involved with the local organizations that we have that are, posted behind me. We have Omega CDC, Sunlight Village, the Dayton Tenant Union, the Collaboratory, Dayton United for Human Rights, NCCJ, the Journalism Lab, Co-op Dayton, Nourish Our Neighbors, Collabus Cooperative Research Project, Spectrum New Beginnings, and Montgomery County Mentoring Collab, and much more. Amaha, we are the ones that we've been waiting for.
That's it. That's it.
We are the ones that we've been waiting for. And we will continue to build this democracy that we deserve. One grounded in justice, one grounded in belonging, and one that understands that the power of people is more important than the people in power. More than ever, we need each other. We really do. Everybody doesn't know how to be a human these days. I thought some stuff was just like common courtesy and like manners and stuff like that. That's not for everybody. So for the ones that have it, let's make sure we use it. We have to have trust to do this work. I can't trust you if you're not nice to me. I can't trust you if you don't think that I'm smart enough or I'm not light enough to be in the room. So just keep that in mind. We are all the ones that we've been waiting for. We have every single thing that we need to do everything that we need to do. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Tell me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. And I really hope you guys are paying attention to what he was saying about North Carolina. That actually looks like I don't want to say our backyard, it's our front yard. Yep. That's something that we're dealing with right now too. If you don't know something, ask. This is the time for us to ask. This is the time for us to make sure that we are speaking in languages that are palatable to all people, so everybody understands this shared vision, so we can do what we need to do.
Sharon, hey man, let's give this brother a hand. I know the time is late, but we not have, I did some research on the SNCC meetings. Their meetings were never less than 5 hours, and they fussed and fought. But they said they fussed and fought one another so they could stand when they went out of the room. They challenged each other so that they could deal with it. So I want to just a couple of things. I want to put a footnote on what was just said. People wouldn't be fighting us. So, there are a lot of robots out here that are telling folk don't vote. That's not real people. Because the folk that are saying that know the truth. And I want to give you all just a couple of things. And voting is not the only thing, but it must be a part of the thing. You can't say you're concerned about public policy and then you don't participate in who writes public policy. Otherwise, you can scream on the outside, but you got to have somebody on the inside. It's both and, not either or. But 90 million people didn't vote in this past election. And I want us to start sometime in our room. We need to stop talking so much about what a person or group is doing and begin to twist. The reason I want to give you that diagnosis, but then close with the meeting, is to close with the answer, right? 90 million people didn't vote. The presidential election was decided by under 3 million votes. And less than that if you look at the Electoral College, right? 36% of black folk didn't vote. I'm not making a judgment, I'm just telling you the fact. Upwards of 20% of white brothers and sisters did not vote. There were a large number of people that I found out that voted because some crazy chauvinistic pastor told them that a woman was bad. I'm not telling you who to vote for, I'm just saying these are factual realities. And extremism and authoritarianism always bets on a small electorate, always, always. And so one of the things that we've got to talk about, I was saying to somebody the other day, they said, we want to get in the room to find out what the agenda is. I said, I think we pretty much know what the agenda, we could come up with, we need to get in the room, as this brother said, and build out the plan for how we are going to mobilize in a way that we have not a political vote in 2026, but a movement vote. A movement vote that the pollsters won't know how to figure it out because they've never seen it. That's what's got to happen, where they are scratching their head and their models don't work anymore. And if that wasn't possible, what you see happening in Ohio, North Carolina, Texas wouldn't be happening. The last quote I want to leave, which I think is Howard Thurman, and Howard Thurman said something like this: sometimes you judge the essence of your power by the committed attacks of your enemy. There's nowhere in the world you can be weak. You know, whenever I've shared with Della and I get a death threat or something crazy, I don't talk about it often. I'm not happy and get it because people are crazy. But it also, on the flip side, it's letting me know that you must be doing something right. Now, that's not always the case, but in some cases, you're doing something right, or when people are trying to do everything they can to cause you to have despair, look at what your power is and what you're doing. And I believe in this generation, and I've said it to this generation, and I mean all of us, if Harriet Tubman got 700 people out of slavery, she didn't have Snapchat, Twitter. If you think about it, she had moss on the north side of the tree. She had a made-up mind. She had epilepsy, but that flipped into a way of her being able to see things. And she got 700 people out of slavery, y'all. We need to say in this moment, I believe, that if you ever wanted to see me awake and fighting for this democracy, here it comes. You know, your best thing, you should have left us asleep. But since you want to talk about being woke, we are awake now. Yep. And we going to the meeting, and we're not going to stay in the meeting. We just going to decide how much we going to win and work for in the meeting, and then we're going to work. God bless you.
Good job, Deja. Thank you. Everybody look at somebody at your table and say, what if? What if? Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Barber. Thank you so much. Thank you, Deja, for our closing. And thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. I believe you will take everything that you learned today and take it back, share it with your family. This was live streamed. We will have the Reverend Dr. Barber's speech and comments online, so share with your family and friends. But thank you so much. You guys have a great evening.